Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching first part of What If Evil Naruto Fall in Love with Ino. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
A ferocious beast called the Nine Tails was on the rampage in Konoha's Hidden Leaf Village. Fighting this beast claimed the lives of numerous ninja. Lord Third joined the battle with his Anbu, but as they went on, they grew weary. The beast's attention was drawn to the fourth's appearance. It prepared and executed an attack. In front of his outstretched hands was the fourth's special kunai. It was caught and sucked in by a portal that emerged behind the Hokage monument. Afterwards the beast could see the fourth, his wife, and their newborn child. A reaper with a knife in his mouth materialized behind the fourth. When the beast realized what was about to happen, it attempted to avert it by murdering the newborn. A big fingernail pierced the child's parents, who were standing in front of him. As they passed away, they witnessed their child transform into the beast's Jinchuriki. After 4 years the boy sat by himself beneath a tree. He closed his eyes and sighed at that precise moment. All of his memories of being repeatedly beaten, people glaring at him, and disparaging remarks suddenly flooded his mind. Tears were streaming out of his eyelids and onto the grass. He only wondered why he was so despised by everyone. The boy was startled to feel a hand on his left shoulder and opened his eyes, allowing the tears to fall freely. The most beautiful face he had yet seen greeted him. His cheeks blushed slightly. "Hey, are you okay?" "Yes, I am." "Well, why are you crying? You should be smiling. Would you like to play with me?" In some way, he felt better when he saw the girl smile. "All right, let's go." He leaves the girl behind as he flees. She eventually caught and tackled him. After pursuing him, they chuckled while observing the clouds in the sky. They would identify shapes and occasionally quarrel over which shape the cloud belongs to. As time went on, the sun began to set. They got to their feet and exchanged glances. "I had a great time with you today." "Me too. My name is Ino Yamanaka." "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Nice meeting and playing with you, Naruto." "The same to you, Ino. Maybe tomorrow we can play again?" "Sure. Same spot. Bye, Naruto." "Bye, Ino." She then gave a wave and bolted for her home. All the way back to his apartment, he couldn't help but smile. The glares hardened and the murmurs were blocked by memories of them playing. He went inside after opening the door in order to start tomorrow. He jumped into his bed and fell asleep. They continued to play until they were old enough to enter the academy. They forgot about their meeting and friendship as the years passed until one day of faithfulness. 6 years later, today, the ninja who was pursuing Naruto yelled, "Hey Naruto, get back here." "Yeah right, as if I'll do that," Naruto cried out while splattering paint. He had just completed painting the Hokage stone faces, his greatest practical joke to date. The ninja lost sight of him as he disappeared from view. He leapt off to follow him, but Naruto dropped his fence disguise and started to move. He collided with someone as he rounded a nearby bend, covering both the other person and himself in paint. "Watch where you're going, idiot. Now I have to go back home to bathe and change clothes." "Wow, it's just paint. It can wash off. You ruin everything, don't you?" "No, well maybe." She slightly narrowed her eyes and asked, "What's your name? So I can make sure put you at the top of my kill list." "I'm Naruto Uzumaki." "Believe it, Naruto huh? Well, I'll make sure you'll be the first person I get revenge on. Just remember, Ino Yamanaka will be the one getting you back." "Bring it on." Naruto has been anticipating something since that day, knowing that he would be pranked at any moment. As if the punishment wasn't enough, he had already cleaned up the paint on the faces. After a while, he relaxed and simply went outside like everyone else in the village. He noticed 2 Ryo as he was walking, so he looked around and picked them up. Something pulled his leg violently just as his fingertips were about to touch it. Before long, he was upside down and had a rope fastened to his ankle. It was moving toward the front when it heard laughter coming from behind. Before long, an unmistakable face with blonde hair and light blue eyes was visible. Ino folded her arms as she stood there, but her expression quickly changed to applause. Naruto hung his head in surrender. "Didn't I tell you I was going to get you back? Okay, from now on we're officially enemies, so a war is breaking loose?" "It already started." "Okay, then I was going to help you down, but since we're enemies I trust you'll get out of there yourself. See you later, Naruto." Walking away was Naruto's only chance to escape, and he watched helplessly. She turned around and grinned when he yelled her name. His face flushed with shame as he begged her for assistance. She took a step forward and undid the knot. Naruto hit his head as he fell to the ground. She lowered herself to his level and spoke softly in his ear. "This war begins now." He blushed even more when she kissed him lightly and quickly on the cheek. Naruto was left behind as she got up and left. All Naruto could do was speculate about what might come next. On a sunny afternoon, 10-year-old Ino was strolling through the streets of Konoha. She was grinning and had a slight spring in her step. She hummed a song as she closed her eyes. When she came to a stop, she saw a bloody hand emerging from a shadowy alley. She approached it carefully, and as she did, a figure might have appeared. One thing, though, caught the eye. Blonde hair with spikes. She took it out by reaching in at the sight. Her eyes widened and she lost her words. In front of her, Naruto was lying on his stomach with his eyes closed, severely bruised and covered in blood. She looked for indications that he was still alive, but she was terrified as she ran her fingers down his arm nearly immediately. Naruto took her hand. Her heart rate increased to an unthinkable level after a short while. His hand went limp, and he jumped up. Grinning, her expression changed from one of surprise to one of annoyance. Naruto exclaimed with laughter, "Man, you really fell for that one." Ino exclaimed, "You really had me worried. That was my objective. If this goes on, I'll have a heart attack. I wouldn't do that to you." "Well, maybe." "Okay, this war has gotten serious." Naruto felt like a champion as she fled. After cleaning himself, he celebrated by ordering ramen from Ichiraku's. He ordered while seated in a chair. As he reached for his chopsticks, it exploded in his face as he was ready to eat. After this experience, all he could think of was Ino. He placed another order, which at least wasn't a joke. He excused himself, only to be taken by surprise again. Ino saw that Naruto's collar was damp while she was standing to the left of the ramen shop. "Well, did you enjoy my little meal?" "Matter of fact, I did. I ate ramen many different ways, but never like that, so I thank you." "You're insane. We all are in our own ways. Put the war on hold. I have to talk to you about the Ninja Academy." "What is it?" "Well, once we go in there we can't finish the war. There's still 2 more years. We have time. Even though you're a knucklehead, you're not that bad." "So are you?" Naruto accepted Ino's extended hand with a handshake. He felt a physical shock as soon as their hands made contact. With a laugh, Ino gestured to the joy buzzer she was holding. Naruto rubbed his hand and pouted. After exchanging a final look, they went their separate ways. By the time Naruto arrived home, the sun was about to set. Because he had taken his time walking, he went inside, sat on his bed, and changed into his pajamas. 2 more years, huh? It should give me enough time to get her back. Although she's smart, I'll give her that, but why does it feel like I know her from somewhere? Oh well, these 2 years will feel like an eternity. However, he was mistaken. Over the course of the 2 years, they planned pranks, watched them in action, and wondered when the next person would get them back. When Naruto awoke, he checked the time. After making his breakfast and getting out of bed, he left. He spots a girl with halfway pink hair on the way there. When he caught a glimpse of her green eyes, he was astounded. He was desperate to know her. After a while of following her, he realized she was also heading to the academy. When Naruto struck someone in the academy, he opened the door to his room and entered. He rubbed his forehead and closed his eyes. He saw the same girl he had seen earlier. When he opened his eyes, she opened her eyes slowly and saw him. When he realized he had touched her, a flush came over his face. "Don't you ever watch where you're going?" "Sorry, I just didn't expect someone to be on the other side," said Naruto. "It's all right, no harm done. Since it seems we're in the same class, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm Sakura Haruno. Nice to meet you." "Same. Well, I just was going out to check the rest of the academy, so I'll see you later." "Yeah." She passes him and vanishes into a corridor. When he entered the classroom, he saw that there were already other people there. A very familiar voice called to him as he searched for a seat with her fingers entwined. Ino sat to his left. She smiled almost evilly, and Naruto nearly gave her a death stare. With annoyance, Naruto inquired, "What do you want?" "Nothing much. I just couldn't help but notice you and Forehead Little encounter." "Forehead? My nickname for Little Pinky? Just when I think you couldn't get any lower, you do." "Say what?" At that moment, a boy with black hair, a face devoid of emotion, and a chilly aura surrounded him stepped through the door. Every girl fell in love with him right away when this boy went by. Ino shoved Naruto aside to give her a better view. This infuriated Naruto, who vowed to draw attention to himself before long. Class started. They were all outside, facing targets. Iruka, their teacher, stood to the right and gave the boys instructions. Every girl applauded when a particular boy stood up. Shuriken came out of his grasp and hurled them, striking each one. Everyone saw the Uchiha crest on the back of his shirt. As he got back up, he impressed Iruka, who asked for his name. All the girls listened intently as he answered him in a monotone. "My name is Sasuke Uchiha." The girls began calling his name as sweetly as they could. When Sasuke announced it, Iruka put an end to their conversation and told Naruto to step forward. As he took his place, everyone's attention was on him. Well, except the women. Shuriken's eyes narrowed as he came out of his fingers. He startled everyone by launching them. They gazed at him with wide eyes, hearing nothing. Naruto knew he performed well, but he was the one who was startled when he looked up. Only 2, some in the fence and others in the tree, struck the targets. He saw they all burst out laughing, with the exception of Sasuke, who smirked slightly. One individual in particular caught Naruto's attention by laughing uncontrollably. Ino chuckled while clutching her stomach, tears streaming from her eyes. He became angry as well as sad. He briefly closed his eyes, and upon opening them, he discovered that he was in a sewer. "What the hell? How did I get here? Better's find a way out." He sees an opening to his left as he moves down a hallway. He entered and quickly discovered that he was walking in water. He kept looking for a way out without giving it any thought. Before long, a massive cage appears in front of him. It was too dark for him to see anything inside. Despite his best efforts, giant nails were thrown at him when he moved closer to get a better look. But the cage bars prevented them from getting to him. When he heard the voice of what was behind it, he stood there trembling in fear. At long last, I meet my jailer. Jailer? To think I could have been sealed into someone like you. Who or why you? Who am I? I'm the beast that nearly destroyed this village, the Nine Tails. The cage suddenly came to life, revealing the beast. Naruto could clearly see his red-orange fur, sharp teeth, piercing red silted eyes, and, most importantly, 9 lashing tails. He was astounded by what he saw. They attempted to refute its veracity, but the beast in front of them made it seem too real with each growl. Is this a dream, or is what is happening to him real? What do you mean I am your jailer? Allow me to show you. Leaking from the cage, red chakra quickly swirled around Naruto. Before long, it stabilized him, and he sensed his strength increasing. His teeth sharpened, his fingernails grew and sharpened, and his hair and whiskers flared out. He felt the changes happening and closed his eyes in pain. His eyes quickly snapped open, revealing red, silting, piercing eyes instead of his oceanic blue ones. He screamed, releasing the grip. A seal moved to his stomach as his jacket opened and his shirt rose. Everything subsided after it was done, and he passed out. Looks like this kid can handle my chakra. He has a lot of promise. I'm going to enjoy this. Naruto had a terrible headache when he woke up in class. He felt like every cell in his body was burning and hurting. So the headache was the least of his worries. Everyone was still in class. When he looked around, he stumbled to his feet and made his way to the restroom. When he arrived, he splashed his face with water. Amazingly, steam came out of his face. He lifted his shirt and unzipped his jacket. Out of curiosity, a strange mark on his stomach startled him. Before returning to class, he fixed himself and closed his eyes. There were whispers about him as he made his way back to his seat. The eyes of the Nine Tails appeared with a single blink. Everyone halted and became terrified as they felt his power increase in such a short period of time. Sasuke was interested in learning how much power Naruto actually possessed. Even though everyone else was terrified, he was certain that he would soon find out. Naruto sought answers at the Hokage mansion after school. To get there, he ran as fast as he could. He dashed up the stairs to the Hokage's office and through the doorway without knocking. He barged in. The unexpected appearance of Naruto caught the Hokage off guard. Nearly panting, Naruto approached the Hokage's desk. Old man, I need answers on a serious matter. Well, Naruto, what is it? I had this vision, so to say, and it had this enormous fox with 9 tails, and it said I was its jailer, and it almost destroyed Konoha. When I went to the bathroom to put water on my face, steam came from my face and a weird marking was on my stomach. What's happening? Naruto, I cannot answer that question. Why not? It's something no one should talk about. If someone did, they will be killed. Do you understand the consequence? I don't care about consequences. I just want to know what's happening to me. You're the Hokage. Can't you just explain what happened? Alright Naruto, since it can't be hidden any longer, what you saw wasn't a vision. It was real. 12 years ago, that same beast attacked the village. After a long and tiring battle, the 4th Hokage had to seal the 9 tails away, and he chose you. Why me? There had to be someone else who could have taken it. You see, the reason he chose you is because you're his son. Your father is Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, was the previous Jinchuriki. Before you had to be born in secret because the seal weakens when a female Jinchuriki is giving birth. They gave up their lives to save you. So all this was kept from me. All my life I wanted to know why everyone hated me, and for what? Just because I have the beast that attacked the village. My parents died to save the village and I'm their son, and all I get is the worst childhood ever. All the hatred, depression, and neglect were because of one petty reason. As Naruto spoke, Hiruzen sensed his power growing. It got to the point where he began to change. He made the decision to assume leadership. After his eyes changed, Naruto became more angry as he saw him charging. There were bubbly sounds, and Naruto appeared to be wearing a cloak. The chakra tail struck Hiruzen out of the way as he dropped to his hands and knees. 3 Anbu showed up after hearing a disturbance, and Hiruzen gave them the order to stop Naruto at all costs. They rushed forward and disappeared while the other 2 struck Naruto hard in the stomach. One of them kicked him to the side until a second tail appeared. Naruto's body went limp. One of them was fatally injured when Naruto slashed him, causing him to fall. Naruto held out both arms as the other 2 drew their swords. When 2 chakra arms launched after them, they halted their charge. In addition to the burning feeling, it broke multiple bones and held them tightly. The arms closed on them, killing them with 1 more inch. Naruto slowly turned to look at Hiruzen. The red eyes were more ferocious, as if Naruto didn't care about human life. One day this village will fall, whether it be by my hand or not. For all the crap I've been through in this damn village, I wouldn't be surprised if this village falls by my hand. Naruto then disappeared, leaving Hiruzen alone. What have I done? Minato, Kushina, forgive me. Everyone had been in the academy for 2 months already. Everyone forgot about Naruto's epic failure. But only because he made others. They were practicing taijutsu outside. Students were chosen by Iruka to defy others. The objective was straightforward. Defeat your opponent without employing genjutsu or ninjutsu. Sasuke refused to fight him when he called him and Shikamaru to the center. He was thinking of someone else. Sensei, I want to fight Naruto. Is it alright with you, Shikamaru? This is too troublesome. What about you, Naruto? Will you accept his offer? Sure. Why not? Opposite Sasuke. Naruto took Shikamaru's place. Nobody failed to notice the smirk on Sasuke's face without even glancing at Naruto. Every female cheered for Sasuke, knowing that Sasuke had no idea what he was getting himself into. Naruto let out a deep sigh. 3 kunai descended on Naruto as Sasuke disappeared from view. He closed his eyes and dodged the kunai, disappearing just in time after landing. Sasuke pondered his whereabouts. Just in time, the Sharingan came to life in his eyes. He threw Naruto's fist over his head and fell to the ground. Naruto attempted to kick him with his right leg, but Sasuke blocked it, so it was unsuccessful. He moved to strike him in the stomach. After pushing his leg aside, Naruto used the momentum to dodge his fist, spin to the side, knee him in the stomach, and then kick him away in an attempt to regain his bearings. Sasuke leapt aside, causing Naruto to collide with the ground. He was launched into the air after Sasuke kicked him in the chin. He leapt after Naruto, kicking him in the chest, punching him in the face, and kicking him in each side. Now that he was upside down, Naruto fell headfirst to the ground. Sasuke used his feet to support his head while holding him in place from behind. Naruto descended more quickly with the additional weight. His legs fell dead and his head slammed into the floor. He was released by Sasuke, and his body hit the floor. Sasuke stood up and started to return to the throng regardless of whether Naruto was okay. All the girls cheered him on. Sasuke nearly stumbled at that moment as someone grabbed his ankle. He noticed Naruto gripping it firmly. Naruto soon began to rise as red chakra began to seep out of him. His eyes were bloodshot red. When he looked up after releasing Sasuke's ankle, he struck Sasuke in the face, causing him to fly to the ground and sustaining facial pain. Everyone was staring at Sasuke in disbelief. They returned their focus to Naruto. For some reason they swiftly spun around when they heard him scream, but he was nowhere to be seen. Sasuke stood up only to have his side kicked. He had the appearance of a stone skipping through water. When he tried to stand up again, he was struck again. Naruto got up and moved in the direction of the dust cloud where Sasuke was. Naruto stood there and took the hit as a fireball burst out of the cloud. He was totally unharmed when the smoke cleared. Even his clothes were in perfect condition. One of his fangs was protruding from his mouth, and his eyes were closed. Everyone was curious about Naruto. Was he human, or was he half human? Sasuke came out of the cloud, but paused. They were all so taken aback, stunned, and in awe that they were unable to speak. Sasuke's back was where Naruto's right hand appeared. Iruka commanded, "Okay Naruto. That's enough. I want to make him suffer." "Naruto," I said, "that's enough." Naruto knocked Iruka out with a single blow, silencing him. When Ino appeared in front of him, he stopped walking back to Sasuke. Ino screamed, "Get away from him, you monster." Naruto let out a low, demonic growl, "And what if I don't? You'll regret the day you were born." That's funny because Naruto and Ino made an appearance side by side. "I love the day I was born." He struck her in the back with his elbow and went back to Sasuke. When Ino grabbed Naruto from behind and begged him to stop, he raised his hand to deliver the last blow. Everyone was perplexed. When he gradually returned to normal, his eyes widened at an unexpected discovery. When he was normal and sane after a few moments of staring at Ino, he vanished. She received a perplexed look as to why he did that, but she chose not to think about it in order to assist in transporting an injured Sasuke and unconscious Iruka to the hospital. A few hours after, what was that Naruto thinking hurting Sasuke-kun and Iruka-sensei like that? Sakura inquired. "I have no idea," said Ino. "When that weird red chakra came out of him, it was like he was a totally different person," said Shikamaru. Hinata interjected, "I could feel the hatred and bloodlust within it." "He was wilder than me on food pills," Kiba admitted. "Ino, he stared at you for a couple seconds. What was with that? Do you two have some untold history?" Sakura pondered. "Only prank wars, but that was years ago. As for him staring, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe he has feelings for you. Even if he did, I wouldn't take him. Not after what he did. I officially hate him." "Well, this is a new record. You lost her once and you lose her again. Way to go," Naruto remarked. Naruto left the academy. He had his hands in his pockets and his head lowered. He reflected on what he had seen at last. Everything made sense. The only questions were whether they would forgive him and whether she would believe him. No one saw him or even gave a damn about his fate. For the remainder of the day, Ino was heading home when school let out. All she wanted was privacy. Regretfully, that did not occur. "Ino? Naruto, Right now I don't even want to talk to you? Fine then, don't talk, just please listen. To what? Are you going to tell me you're a heartless demon who doesn't care for anyone? Because if you are, then I'll listen. Ino, I get that you hate me, but hate is too kind of a word. I despise you. I know, but will you listen to these 2 things I have to say? Just 2 things? Just 2, fine, I'll listen. Thank you, Ino. What happened earlier today, I didn't technically do it. What do you mean by technically? I was, in a word, being controlled. The red chakra I'm sure all of you saw was another chakra that isn't mine. I have something in me. Like what? Naruto whispered into her ear, sensing the existence of other chakra networks. Let's go to my apartment, people are watching us. They walked to his apartment after she nodded slightly in a section of his room that was closed off. They carried on their conversation. He filled her in on everything, including what transpired in the Hokage's office and his initial run-in with the Nine Tails. She initially believed he was making everything up, but then she recalled how despised he is by the villagers and how much he did resemble the fourth. Now he was going to explain to her why he had been staring at her. And Ino, the reason I stared at you was because something about our past came into mind. Could what Sakura said be true? It was around the time we were 4 years old. I was in the park crying and you came to cheer me up. We played for hours, and ever since then, until we had to go into the academy, we played together. The point what I'm trying to make is that day when paint got on you and me, it wasn't our first time meeting. Her mind was filled with memories of that day. As he spoke, she nearly felt bad for betraying Naruto after everything came back to her. But wait, when you told the Hokage you wouldn't be surprised if Konoha fell by your hand, were you serious, or that was just the rage talking? Ino, I meant it. This village did nothing but hurt me, physically and mentally. The only thing stopping me from leaving is you. I'm stopping you? Yes, you were my first real friend, rival, and, most of all, the person I care about the most. She blushed a little when she heard that. So Naruto, are you saying you like me? To an extent that I would give up my life to save you. Wait, when you said that, did you mean if I love you? Yes, don't you love me? You said I'm the one you care about the most? Well, I like you, but not in that way, at least not yet. With all this hatred in my life, I need time to recover from it. Okay, take your time, I'll wait for you. Thanks, Ino. Tears were starting to form in her eyes as she gave him a hug. She could practically feel Naruto's pain. She will make sure to be with him tomorrow, regardless of what others think. Since she now knows the truth about him, she will support him and help him stay composed. She was also aware of her deep love for him. 2 things excited Ino as she made her way to the academy were that she would be seeing Naruto again, and that today was the graduation exams. As she made her way to the academy, she hummed a song. She sprinted to get to the academy faster after spotting Naruto in the distance. He was sitting on a swing by himself beneath a tree. There was a hint of anger mixed with sadness on his face, and she was the best person to lift his spirits. Hey Naruto, what's wrong? Ino, promise me something. What is it? Promise me that you will never leave my side. I promise. Naruto, come on. Class will soon start. She took hold of his hand and dragged him. Holding hands, the two dashed into their classroom. Ino chose to sit next to Naruto. Ignoring the glares that were directed at him, Iruka showed up in class and informed everyone about the graduation test. It was both simple and challenging. Iruka witnessed the physical and mental transformation of his class. He was certain that they would pass. Each student entered a room one by one and emerged with their headband in hand or on. Naruto encouraged Ino as it was her turn. He knew in the back of his mind that he would be the target of all the hatred as soon as she left. He inhaled deeply to prepare for what was about to happen. As she slid the door open, it definitely started as soon as she shut the door with 2 Anbu by his sides. Ino stood before the Hokage. He signaled for her to begin by nodding. She began to develop her chakra after making the tiger hand sign. Her long ponytail and bang were violently lifted as her chakra whirled around her. Another flawless duplicate of her stood beside her in a cloud of smoke. The Hokage lowered his head slightly and grinned. He gave her a headband and beckoned her closer. She left the room with a brief moment of joy that she had passed. She witnessed everyone calling Naruto derogatory names and yelling at him. She sees Naruto's hands applying intense pressure to his ears. Although Ino knew the sound was deeper, it appeared to the others that he was attempting to block it out. She saw him slowly lowering his hands, and an evil grin appeared on his face. Now was the moment to take action, or else someone would suffer harm. When Naruto opened his eyes, the Nine-Tails' eyes were visible. He disappeared, only to reappear behind Sakura. Ino caught it just as he was about to strike her head hard. The power and force behind it was palpable to her. With a growl, Naruto pushed her away. Naruto appeared above Ino while she was in midair and slashed her down. With his fist just a few centimeters from her face, Naruto landed on top of her. Despite everyone's expectation that her eyes would be closed, she calmly looked directly into Naruto's eyes. She stroked his cheek after touching it with her hand for the first time. She noticed that his eyes were returning to their usual state without Naruto closing them. He closed his eyes for a moment and sighed. He saw how he and Ino were positioned when he opened them, so he quickly got off her and assisted her in getting up. Naruto, are you alright? I should be asking you that question? Don't worry, I'm not seriously injured, I'm sorry. For what? It wasn't your fault, and besides, the real Naruto wouldn't hurt anyone. Thanks, Ino. She hugs him tightly. No worries, Naruto, I told you that I was going to be with you, and that's a promise. Interesting, she could calm him down enough to recall the demon's chakra. This will come in handy. After a few hours, Ino was attempting to persuade the others to give Naruto another chance, or at the very least, learn more about him. Although they didn't want to get too close, some people agreed. After a while, they discovered that this Naruto was sweeter and more composed than the one they had witnessed attacking Ino. They were informed by both Naruto and Ino that this was who he truly was. They conversed, but eventually they became disinterested since they went to take the exams. Iruka left the classroom and never returned. I'm bored, said Naruto. Ino inserted, you aren't the only one. Sakura proposed, how about we play truth or dare? Hinata remarked, I don't see why not, this is going to be fun. I'll go first. Shikamaru, truth or dare? Said Kiba. What a drag. Truth. Is it true that you are the laziest person in the world? Maybe Sasuke, truth or dare? I'll pick truth. Is it true you're gay? From my sources I got a note saying you are. No, I'm not. Sakura, truth or dare? Dare. I dare you to hide Sensei's most prized possession. Sure, Ino, truth or dare? Dare. No one has time for truth. Okay. But don't say you walked right into this one. I dare you to. Ino widens her eyes and blushes a little as she whispers the remaining words into her ear. Everyone was curious about Ino's dare. Why did she behave this way? After nearly a minute, Ino finally responded to their questions about her and Sakura. Sakura dared me to kiss Naruto. Before long, they shared Ino's expression. Everyone, including Naruto, was aware of the cause of her blush, but what was it? Naruto and Ino agreed that it would end sooner if they worked more quickly. They inhaled deeply and brought their faces closer to one another as they felt their lips meet. Their eyes snapped open after slowly closing. After a brief moment, they closed their eyes once more and intensified their kiss. They continued as though no one was looking, and everyone watched. They decided to wake them from their reverie after realizing they were enjoying it a bit too much, since they were now encircled by each other's arms and had very little room between them. Their cries were ineffective. They made a slightly louder call, but the outcome was the same. Sakura broke their reverie by yelling at them, staring at one another. They pushed their heads back as far as they could. They observed their appearance and the uncomfortable looks they exchanged with them. Sorry about that, Naruto. No, I'm sorry. I wouldn't be saying sorry if I was you too. By all the sounds you've been making, it sounded like you wanted to kiss each other. Maybe this even shows how deep your love is for each other, Sakura responded. They could only look at one another, wondering if Sakura was telling the truth. Ino notices Naruto strolling with his hands in his pockets after school. She rushed up to meet him. They laughed and discussed a wide range of topics. They were both thinking about their kiss, but neither of them realized it. Ino declined Naruto's offer to drive her home when he stopped in front of his apartment, preferring to speak with him inside. They sat on the couch together after he brought her into his apartment. Given what had transpired earlier, they both knew that being by themselves would be awkward. Ino made the decision to end the silence and speak directly. Naruto, what do you think of me? Am I just a friend or something more? Ino, I do care for you, but I think it's deepened. So you're saying you like me? No? What? You didn't let me finish. I said no because I don't like you. I love you, Ino. Naruto-kun, I feel the same exact way. The awkward feeling left them after they kissed. Naruto was tipped over when Ino began to press the kiss. Ino was on top of Naruto as he lay on the couch. They broke the kiss and embraced each other. She closes her eyes and rests her head on Naruto's side while he embraces her. Naruto was shocked by how at ease they were in that situation. It was consoling to them somehow. With the only question on her mind, Ino broke the silence. Naruto-kun, are you still going to take revenge on Konoha? Yes, I am, Ino-chan, but when? I don't know. You didn't take the graduation exam, how come? Ino-chan, I know you're smarter than this. The Hokage, 2 Anbu, and me in one room equal disaster. Well, I guess if you were going to take revenge, it doesn't make sense going through the trouble. At least you could have kept a low profile. True, but the time has done past. Nothing I can do now. Ino lifted her head to reveal it to Naruto. Her face was almost emotionless. Given everything that was happening, Naruto could see that it was the cause. He placed his hand on her head and then returned it to its original position. Ino was aware that her boyfriend was experiencing a range of emotions at the moment. His mind was buzzing with feelings of love, anger, rage, and indecision. She gave his neck a quick kiss while biting her lip, grinning. He turned his neck slightly away from her and gave it back. He called her name as he felt her fully relax, but she didn't answer. Before long, he hears faint breathing. That was not possible. Was Ino sleeping? He enjoyed the sensation of having her on him and didn't want to bother her. He slept after closing his eyes. The two blondes one on top of the other, were dozing off in each other's arms. Seeing them sleep peacefully together was a lovely sight. When Ino awoke, she was lying on Naruto grinning. She made an effort to leave him without waking him. After leaving him, she noticed that it was dark outside the window. She was shocked to learn this, but she was even more shocked to learn that it was almost midnight, knowing what her father would do if he discovered she was at someone else's house, especially if it was a man and they were. Alwana made her heart race. She looked for a phone and called home after deciding to accept the lashing. "Hello," said Inoichi. "Hey dad, Ino, where the hell are you?" "Don't worry, I'm safe. It's too late to say that. I've been wondering whether or not you were alright. Are you by a friend?" "Yes. Is it a boy?" "Well, yes. Please tell me you're not alone." "What would you do if I say yes? If he does anything to you, I'll make him wish." "Relax dad, I'm with Naruto." "Well, why you did had me so worked up? You should have said that from the very beginning." "You're not upset, angered, or infuriated. Why would I be? You and Naruto were inseparable friends when you were young." "Well, if you truly feel that way, then you should know that we are dating. It was only a matter of time. You and Naruto be safe, okay?" "Okay, bye dad." She hung up and felt two arms wrapping around her waist. When she turned around, Naruto was there. She pivoted and encircled his neck with her arms. Naruto led her to his bedroom, where they slept for the remainder of the night. After slowly moving into a kiss after a few hours, Naruto awoke to the smell of delicious scents as he pursued it. He noticed Ino making breakfast. They ate and went to the academy after he made an impression. Everyone was seated at the academy, anticipating the arrival of their sensei. At that moment, Iruka showed up holding papers. Each of them knew what those documents were and what data they contained. Iruka told them about the team they were required to be on and its objective. After reviewing the paper, he dismissed Team 7, which included Sasuke, Sakura, and a surprisingly a Naruto. He emphasized that he wasn't a genin and didn't take the graduation exam. Iruka threw him a headband. "Now you are, to Naruto, what is going on?" At that moment, Hiruzen materialized in the middle of the class. He was able to share some intriguing news. He told everyone that Sakura would be replaced by Ino. Sakura was the only one who didn't wonder why the change had occurred. She was only considering how she and Sasuke would be separated. Hiruzen gave an explanation of his decision. "The reason as to why I did this is because Ino has a special key factor that it appears only she has." Ino asked, "Lord Hokage, what do you mean?" "Only you have the power to calm Naruto down when his power reaches to that extent. I witnessed this yesterday." Today's Hiruzen perspective. When he heard the class making loud noises, he made the decision to stop them. He saw him slash her down while Naruto and Ino were in midair. When he arrived, his fist was very close to Ino's face, and as he was about to stop him, he noticed how calmly she gazed into his eyes. His eyes widened as she caressed Naruto's cheek, calming him down enough for him to return to his normal state. Knowing that he had managed to prevent the Nine Tails chakra from taking over, he grinned to himself. Today's Hiruzen perspective. After hearing the explanation, Ino at last realized how much Naruto loved her and why she remained so composed despite his outbursts. The remaining teams were cancelled by Iruka, and they were taken by their new sensei in anticipation of their sensei's arrival. Only Team 7 remained in the classroom. Ino would occasionally attempt to break the awkwardness when Naruto and Sasuke would glare at one another. The door soon slid open, revealing a large patch of gray hair. When a head entered the classroom, only the right eye was visible. After telling them to head to the roof, he vanished. After exchanging glances, they all departed the room. They learned a bit more about their sensei Kakashi Hitaki and one another on the roof. He warned them that if they ate breakfast, they would throw up to prepare for tomorrow. They all went to their houses. Naruto debated whether or not to eat dinner, but his hunger overcame him. After falling asleep, he had an odd and ironic dream. He was going to leave in the morning when his door was knocked on. When he opened it, Ino was standing there holding a bag of sandwiches. Naruto brought up their sensei's words, but Ino prevailed, saying that if they throw up together. They ate and chatted after he invited her inside. After arriving at the training grounds, they waited for their sensei for nearly 2 hours. He showed up just as they were ready to give up. "Sorry I'm late. A black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way." "Yeah right," exclaimed the blondes. "Okay then, today we're going to do an exercise. You have until sunset to get these bells from me. Alright, begin." He vanished in a smoke cloud. They all scanned their surroundings, but they were unable to spot him after running through the trees. Naruto and Sasuke parted ways and headed in different directions. Ino turned around to look. Naruto leapt from tree to tree, listening for the bells and keeping an eye out for Kakashi. He started in that direction. After hearing a bell, a particular fox began to speak as he approached. "Kit, what do you think you're doing? You could have been out of this village." "I could have, but not without Ino-chan. Leave her, it'll just be the two of us." "I know the reason why you don't want her around. She is the only person who can take your chakra away from me." That is correct that she could calm you down, but one question: where is she now? Naruto collapsed to the ground as his eyes grew wide. Naruto's eyes gradually changed as he let out a low, devilish laugh. Both his body and his facial expression changed. He screamed. And the chakra gradually took control of him. Ino sensed a vast yet recognizable power and stopped on a branch. Her eyes grew wide, and she hurried to find Naruto. Nine tails added more chakra. The more Naruto resisted. Despite his best efforts to keep it away, Naruto was on all fours with a chakra tail whipping around when the cloak soon formed. Naruto tightly closed his eye, allowing it to take control and causing his consciousness to fade. Before long, yet another tail appeared as his name was yelled. Naruto felt himself losing consciousness. He noticed a figure sprinting in his direction. When Kyuubi heard her voice, he snarled and attempted to change. Naruto's eyes went completely red as the fourth tail appeared. Ino could hear his agonized cries and see his skin being peeled off. She sprinted and gave him a forceful slap. His metamorphosis came to an end, the cloak vanished, and his eyes gradually returned to normal. He noticed that she didn't enjoy or want to do that. When he looked at her, he touched her cheek and smiled weakly as he passed out. His hand felt lifeless. He placed his head on her lap. After she caught him, she caressed his cheek and looked down at him, hoping he would return soon. For the sake of the bell, Sasuke and Kakashi were fighting. A fireball erupted from Sasuke's mouth as he leapt over Kakashi and dashed through recognizable hand signals. After avoiding it, Kakashi sees that Sasuke is holding something. He noticed that one of his bells was missing. When he looked down with a sigh, he closed his eye. He deceived them into not eating, so he called a time-out so they could eat. He searched the area for Naruto and Ino, but they were not there. Sasuke, have you seen Naruto or Ino? No. At that moment, Kakashi senses a powerful force waning. He flew in that direction before it could fade away entirely. He discovered Ino sitting on the ground. After sprinting through the trees for a few minutes, he introduced himself. Shocking Ino, Kakashi saw that Naruto was unconscious and that parts of his skin were missing. As he got closer, he led Ino back to the training ground area. While carrying Naruto, Ino felt someone tug her ponytail. As soon as they arrived, no one was there. When she turned around, it reappeared and gave Naruto a look. He had a smile on his face and one eye was open. A tear was starting to form in her eye as she grinned. Naruto descended from Kakashi's back and faced Ino. As they arrived at the location, she suddenly leapt at him and planted a kiss on him. The fact that Naruto would be okay was all that mattered to her. Regardless of whether or not other people were looking, she gave him a strong hug as if she didn't want to let go after breaking the kiss. Naruto was limited to grinning. Living in this village had at least one positive effect: the person he got genuinely cares about him. They see that Kakashi is down to just one bell. She whispered something in Naruto's ear, and he agreed. Even though Naruto told her to take it after lunch, Sasuke remained in the main training area while Naruto and Ino worked together to retrieve the bell. When Kakashi punched Naruto away and he dispersed, he was left stunned. Naruto kicked Ino away as he swiftly grabbed the bell. The blonde couple shared the bell. When Kakashi looked up, Kakashi grinned behind his mask at their cooperation. It appears that things would become interesting in this area. Sasuke saw the three return. When he opened one eye, all of them were passed by Kakashi, but he cautioned Sasuke to learn how to collaborate rather than work alone. They went home after leaving the training grounds. Team 7 became close after going on numerous missions together. The rivalry between Naruto and Sasuke was the only thing that remained unchanged. They discovered how to fight as a team and support one another when they were weak. Kakashi observed the physical and mental development of his genin team. He secretly enjoyed being their sensei, perhaps because seeing them made him feel as though he was peering into the past. In fact, when Kakashi looked at the team, he saw Rin, Obito, and his younger self. They learned that the Chunin exams were about to take place as they were returning home from their most recent mission. His team was left behind when Kakashi disappeared to report for their mission. Before they were far apart, a voice called Ino's name as they went in different directions. Sakura was running at her full speed with her fist clenched tightly. When she turned around, Naruto moved her aside and put him in her place after realizing what might happen. Sakura gave Naruto a jaw-breaking blow with all of her strength. Sakura and Naruto caught Ino's attention as she stood there. His hand soon moved, yanking her hand away. Kyuubi's red eyes glared at her as he looked at her, weakening her. Naruto's power seemed to have no boundaries, and Ino's eyes grew wide. Red chakra was visible emanating from his hand as he placed it on her stomach. Pure chakra quickly blasted her away. He turned back to himself just as Ino was about to soothe him. "Let's go, Ino." His wide, radiant smile gave Ino the impression that the recent event had never occurred. She took his hand with a small smile. She and Naruto took off without warning. As he stood there, Sasuke's rage grew. He was curious about Naruto's current level of strength. That section of the street was deserted when he vanished along the streets. Naruto and Ino were strolling hand in hand. They were awkwardly stared at, but no one paid any attention to them. The world was just about them. "Naruto, that'll never happen." "What do you mean?" "One day it will. I know they say that if you eat something too much, it'll eat you, but ramen can't eat you." You don't know that I just have a weird feeling. I don't know what I would do with you, you know. I don't know what I would do with myself either. Naruto wanted to show Ino something special after they both laughed. By the time they arrived at the Hokage monument, the sun had nearly set. They took a seat and looked out over the village. After some time, night fell and the stars emerged. What would be so unique, Ino wondered. At that moment, the moon emerged, shining more brilliantly than before. Naruto gave Ino a quick glance, but it quickly became a stare. He was amazed at how Ino looked in the moonlight. She noticed that Naruto was staring at her. She wondered why he was staring, but it didn't matter because she could see that Naruto's eyes had a slight glow from the moonlight. Their lips met as their faces drew nearer. It was the strongest one so far. Breathing heavily, they broke their kiss. They grinned at one another. Their foreheads meeting, they stood up and made their way back to the village. After dropping Ino off at his house, Naruto went to his own. He pondered what awaited him tomorrow. Kit, I feel the presence of another tailed beast coming closer. Stop making believe that another tailed beast is coming here. Let me rephrase it, another Jinchuriki is coming closer. Naruto's mind returned to his dream, saying, I told you to stop making me believe that. Wait, I feel it, it is another one. Just like in my dream. Well, better start. What are you thinking, Kit? Since we share one common thing, we hate and want to get revenge, I'm going to need to fuse our chakra. So you're finally going to ditch this place? Yes, we need to start now? When Naruto broke the seal, the cage flew open. Kyuubi's eyes were closed, and Naruto was meditating outside. Naruto's entire body was covered in red chakra that seeped out of him. It created the 9 tails and the cloak. Before long, a black sphere of blue chakra flared around him. He opened his eyes inside the sphere, and the Kyuubi's eyes glowed. Naruto began his metamorphosis. They fused their chakras for the remainder of the night, and before long, they were one. Naruto was strolling through the streets the following day, heading to a particular location. He went into the trees and into the training grounds searching. He leapt from tree to tree. Glancing down, he saw a red-haired boy his own age with a guard at his side. The boy gazed up at Naruto. Gazing into his silted, red eyes, he was told by Kyuubi that he was Gaara of the Sand, the one-tailed Jinchuriki. You're a Jinchuriki, Gaara said in a monotone, emotionless voice. So are you? What do you want with me? Naruto leapt down in front of him and said, Nothing much, I just want to make a proposal. I can see you hate your village. I do. What's it to you? You see, me and you are very much alike. Villagers hating us for reasons we didn't know, having to deal with this burden of being a Jinchuriki, and we want revenge on that same village. Basically what I'm saying is, if you agree to help me get revenge on my village, I'll help you to get revenge on yours. Will you help me, brother? You have a deal, but what about my brother and sister? They're here also. Well, I have to ask them too. The name's Naruto, by the way. Gaara. Besides, I also have someone who wants to join. I'll get her and bring her back here. My siblings should be here by then. I'll tell them what you said if you aren't back in time. After giving a nod, Naruto vanished. He was running from one building to another, trying to find Ino. He checked her house, flower shop, even the Hokage mansion. He was walking down the street when she appeared on his back, scaring him. His hand automatically went to his chest, checking to make sure his heart didn't stop. Recovering from the shock, he told Ino it was time for them to leave the village. She nodded and disappears with Naruto. Gaara and his siblings stood waiting on Naruto with his guest. When he did, Naruto introduced himself, and so did Ino. Gaara's siblings introduced themselves as Temari and Kankuro. Naruto was amazed that they all had a very special and unique technique. Gaara had the power to manipulate sand. Temari could use her fan for both defense and offense, and Kankuro could control puppets using his chakra. The siblings were dumbfounded when they knew Ino could calm Naruto even if he is almost lost in Kyuubi's chakra. After they got to know each other better, they soon decided to make preparations to leave. Naruto and Ino went home to pack their things and left. They all met close to the gate and wondered how they would get out. Sand came out of Gaara's guard and traveled at fast speeds, trapping the ninja at the gates, covering their whole body with sand. They were liberated by the sand and passed out. All of them leapt over the gate and fled into the woods. Now that they're out, what will happen? As Naruto and the others made their way through the trees, they had no idea what they were doing or where they were headed. Naruto maintained an alert gaze and a raised head. He felt as though something was pointing him in the direction of their destination. He paused and glanced back for a brief moment. This made everyone go on alert, thinking this was Naruto's way of saying someone's following them. They trailed behind him as he descended into a clearing. He then told them his dream that has been haunting him. Since we all are going to be working together, I might as well tell you the dream I had long ago. I dreamt about this day. I dreamt that one day my team was coming back when the Chunin exams were going to be held, and during that time my demon and I joined and I met you, Gaara. And when we left the village, 4 people were pursuing us, which explains why I look back along the way we trained, and we will face a powerful duo once Mist is around. They're there, but in the end, after destroying Suna and Konoha, we started our own village. A place where those who are labeled could be free. And speaking of the people who are pursuing us are Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and, sadly, your father Ino. What? My dad's pursuing us. Not anymore because they're here. At that moment, they all emerged into the clearing. Ino's attention was solely on her father, who was staring at her. She stood with Naruto even though she could see he disapproved of her decision. They all questioned why Naruto had left, but more significantly, with whom Naruto and the others had other plans. Despite Kakashi's attempts to persuade them to return, Temari prepared her fan. Ino assumed her fighting stance. Gaara had sand whirling around him. Kankuro unwrapped his puppet. Naruto brought his right leg to the back, and everyone prepared to charge. The other team charged before they could. Sakura opposed Temari. Kakashi battled Kankuro. Sasuke pursued Naruto and Gaara. And Ino eventually found herself with her father as Sasuke battled the two Jinchuriki. His Sharingan came to life. Both Naruto and Gaara were staring at Sasuke with dead eyes. A fireball shot out of Sasuke's mouth as he ran through hand signals, chasing after them. When the smoke cleared after the explosion, a wall of sand was visible. While Naruto received something from Kyuubi, it went back to Gaara. He produced a flawless shadow clone. And Naruto grinned as they started to form something in his hand. One could see the wind being compressed and combined with chakra. He ran at Sasuke after it produced the ideal sphere. When he noticed Naruto's jutsu, he made every effort to prevent him from using it as Naruto approached. Gaara shielded him. Sasuke attempted to jump but was unsuccessful. With both hands on his back, Gaara stood behind him. Sasuke was propelled toward Naruto by a powerful force of sand that struck his back. With the jutsu in hand, he held his right palm back. Naruto yelled out its name, Rasengan. Just before it made contact with Sasuke's stomach, Sasuke could feel it turning and digging into his skin. He tried to stand after it blasted him back. Gaara and Naruto stood looking at Sasuke. They knocked Sasuke unconscious with a single, powerful blow. Sakura clenched her fists and ran toward Temari. Temari simply stood there grinning as she easily sidestepped her blow. Sakura tried, but she was unable to connect. After learning that she had struck Temari's fan, she made one final attempt. She saw Temari sitting on top of her fan, which was buried in the ground. She jumped off with a yawn of sheer boredom. After opening her fan, she swung it, sending Sakura skyward with an air shockwave. Temari pulled out a few kunai and hurled them skyward. She swung her fan again, accelerating the kunai. Only the tail portion of the kunai protruded as Sakura fell to the ground. Her clothes were stained with blood. Temari shook her head and closed her eyes, realizing that she must be the world's most worthless person. Her battle ended sooner rather than later. This gave her the impression that she was either a bully or unaware of her true strength. Kakashi lunged towards Kankuro and Crow, his puppet. After kicking the puppet away, Kakashi concentrated on capturing his adversary as Crow showered Kakashi with kunai from above. Kankuro grinned. He avoided them and went on to his opponent after hearing the kunai approaching with a movement of his hands and arms. Kankuro pulled Crow back down and grabbed hold of Kakashi using Crow. Kankuro tightened his grip on him as though he intended to shatter his bones. Crow snapped on Kakashi with a single pull of his chakra strings. He stood up and held his hand down, which was amazing. He ran at him at full speed as lightning sped through his hand. He returned the assault and used it to stab Kankuro. Kakashi quickly discovered that it was the puppet and not Kankuro. Kunai shot at Kakashi. After emerging from Crow's body, he was impaled by the kunai. Before he could react, Kankuro used a smoke bomb to blast Kakashi to the opposite side. As his daughter hung her head, Inoichi looked down at her. He noticed how easily Naruto, Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro prevailed in their fights. It demonstrated their capacity for strength. He was also aware that they would soon pursue him if he did not act quickly. He had to let Ino go. Even though he didn't want her to follow this course, he was aware of Naruto's plans, but at least he knew she would be protected and grow stronger. Ino? He inquired. Why yes. Are you happy with Naruto even when he's like this? I am. No matter what form he takes, deep down he'll always be the Naruto I love. That's good to know. Make sure keep his demon's chakra away. Wait. Did the Hokage tell you? Yes, everything? And Dad? Make sure you get out of Konoha any chance you get when Naruto returns. Why is that? Come on Dad, you know how Naruto was treated and sometimes still, since he and Kyuubi fused chakras and became one. They're going to destroy Konoha. But at least Naruto would be starting a new village and you could come. Maybe I will, and trust me, I won't say anything about this. To be honest, if I was in Naruto's shoes I would have done the same thing. Inoichi helped Kakashi stand up and retrieved Sakura and Sasuke from unconsciousness. After a final glance, he and the others disappeared, leaving them behind. Naruto approached Ino as she turned to face the group and whispered something in her ear. They resumed their journey to who knows where. After she nodded in agreement every now and then, everyone would glance at Ino and wonder what Naruto had told her. Whatever it was, she was undoubtedly anxious. Kakashi entered the gates with Sakura on his back, and Inoichi entered with Sasuke on his back. While Inoichi went to report their attempt to bring them back, Kakashi took Sasuke. Kakashi heard a voice just as he turned to go for a walk. It was serene and lovely, yet somehow familiar as well. His visible eye widened as he turned around. A girl with oceanic blue eyes, long blonde hair pulled back in ponytails, a backpack, and distinctly noticeable whisker marks was standing there. "I don't mean to bother you, but is this where the Chunin exams are being held?" asked the young lady. "Why, yes. If it isn't too much trouble, since you have those too, could you show me where the Hokage mansion is?" "Sure, follow me." This young girl reminded Kakashi of someone he knew, and he couldn't help but notice that he stared at her for a few seconds before an image of the woman in front of him took her place. Then he sees who she was, but he was scared to ask. He escorted her to the Hokage's office. Once they arrived at the mansion, Hiruzen initially reacted aggressively before calming down. Later on, he learns that the girl wishes to join Konoha. Hiruzen inquired, "So, what is your name?" "I'm Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto and associates. They were taking a short break before moving on. They soon reached the edge of the leaf, and after crossing it, they were set free. Naruto and Ino were standing atop a tree. Although it wasn't obvious, she was still shaken by what Naruto had told her. They tried to gauge how far they still had to go by looking over the horizon. They would have to travel a considerable distance to reach their destination. The silence between them is then broken by Naruto, surprising Ino. "Ino, I know you may not want to do it, but it has to be done. Do you think I can actually handle it? I know you could. You did it once and you could do it again." "Naruto, don't you think it's asking a little too much? Trust me, Ino. If anyone can do it, it's you." Gaara yelled. "Naruto, are we leaving now or what?" "Yeah, we are." They leapt to join the siblings in the sand in an attempt to gain power. They persisted in their journey. After several hours of walking, they had left the leaf when night fell. They made camp. Gaara, Naruto, and Ino were awake while Temari and Kankuro slept. Naruto observed Ino and deciphered her nonverbal cues. Her face seemed to want to be buried in her legs as she sat there embracing them. He was not assisting her, and he could see she was afraid. He makes the decision to release her from the weight he placed on her. In addition, he spent the entire day getting ready for this. He informed Gaara that he and Ino needed to take care of some business. When Ino heard this, her eyes grew wide, she began to perspire, and she began to shake. Although Naruto felt bad for putting her through it, it was necessary. He felt her trembling wildly as he helped her up. She felt as though she couldn't walk because of how shaky she was. With his arm around Ino's waist, Naruto stood apart from the others, gazing at her. "Ino, you know that whatever I do and it deals with you, I do it out of love, right?" "I know." "And Naruto, before I start I want you to know something. I will always love you, Ino." She immediately stopped shaking when he pulled her into a kiss. She moved her arms to encircle Naruto's neck. Feeling more at ease, their lips blended together flawlessly as their bodies came into contact. Ino quickly discovers that Naruto was using his tongue and that she wasn't going to be outdone by him. After feeling something slide into her mouth when Naruto retaliated, she thrust her tongue into his mouth. As they engaged in tongue wrestling, they could be heard laughing. They felt as though their love for one another had been rekindled when they broke their kiss. Naruto had to move away from her, even though he didn't want to. She knew he would start, but she questioned why he had moved away at that moment. She dropped to her knees, clutching her head. What was going on? She wondered. She notices a startling change in her body. Her hair flared out, burning the ribbon securing her ponytail. Her nails grew long and sharp, and she shook her head while closing her eyes. When she opened her eyes, they were red and had silted pupils. With a powerful yell, her teeth sharpened and whisker lines flared out on her cheeks as red chakra began to cover her body. She dropped to her knees and glared at Naruto. He only had one more task to complete, and regrettably, it was the most difficult. His eyes transformed into Ino's as he charged. Ino ran toward him, disappearing in the process. He came to a halt and leapt into the air. He was slashed down by Ino, who materialized above him. Naruto quickly got up after colliding with the ground. Ino, wearing a cloak and a single chakra tail, landed in front of him. Naruto made several shadow clones and directed them all to attack her at once because he knew time was running out. They all surrounded her, but when she let out a powerful scream, they scattered. She was standing with her arms tense and her hands by her sides with his chakra flared around his left hand. Naruto ran toward her. She was caught off guard when he suddenly materialized in front of her. Pressing his hand forward, he placed it on her stomach. Ino was still attempting to get over her most recent outburst, which had left her vulnerable. From Ino's back, a chakra hand emerged, but it stopped as it got close to Naruto. He completed the final task with the assurance that it was functioning. He yelled, "Seal!" As the chakra returned to Ino, he heard her scream of agony. It violently whirled around her before vanishing into her stomach. Naruto caught her when she passed out. He can see the seal on her stomach now. He let out a sigh, relieved that it was over. He grinned as he glanced down at her. The most evident of the new information discovered about Ino was that her hair made her appearance even more stunning. He carried her back to the campsite. After picking her up, Ino returned in part along the way. Naruto. Yeah, Ino. I'm so going to kill you. I know. They discovered that everyone was awake when they arrived at their campsite. They complained that they couldn't fall back asleep because they could hear screaming that woke them up. After apologizing, Naruto and Ino turned their focus to the mark that had magically materialized on Ino's stomach. They were astounded and understood when Naruto described what had transpired. They slept the rest of the night because they knew tomorrow would be busy. The following day in Konoha, a young, intelligent girl wearing a headband skipped through the streets. She was unsure of her destination, but she hoped she would enjoy it. Then she sees a girl sprinting in her direction, but she doesn't give it much thought. She didn't know anyone here. After all, the running girl balled her fist and punched her. She skidded on the ground. After flying a few feet in agony, she lay on the ground. That was payback from yesterday, you bastard. WWH, what did I do? Stop playing stupid, Naruto. I know it's you. Why you have me confused? W with S, someone else. No, I don't. Naruto, change back before I pound some sense into you. I told you I'm this Naruto. The name sounds too much like mine's, though I'm Naruko. Naruko? Yes. AK and O at the end. I'm sorry for punching and yelling at you. I'm Sakura. Well, I hope you find the person you're looking for. I could help you, but I don't know how he looks. Now that you mention it, you and him look very similar. Is your last name Uzumaki? Yes. Okay, hold on, you look like him, have the same last name, and you act and dress just like him. Other than being from the same clan, are you two related? If we were, I would know who you were talking about. Well, thanks and sorry again. She then fled, leaving Naruto to wonder who this Naruto was. She headed to the Hokage mansion for answers. Like Naruto, she refused to give in to Hiruzen's attempts to persuade her to let it go. Giving her a photo of Naruto was the least he could do. She didn't realize how similar they were until then. For what seemed like an eternity, she gazed at it. At last, she set it down again and returned it to Hiruzen. Do you know where he is? No, I don't. He's maybe outside the border by now. Is he on a mission? No, he, along with 4 others, is marked down as Rouge Ninja. He found out about something the worst way possible. Oh, okay, Naruto, before you go, I have a question. Go on and ask Hokage-sama. Do you know who your parents are by any chance? Yes, I do. I noticed you have my dad's stone face, since he is the 4th Hokage and my mom was the previous Kyuubi Jinchuriki and I'm the present Kyuubi Jinchuriki. It's exactly what I thought. She and Naruto are siblings, identical twins to be specific. By Hokage-sama, by Naruto. Naruto and Associates. Naruto paused and glanced back for a moment. Everyone saw a tear welling up in his eye, but he shook his head and closed his eyes to remove it. Is everything okay? Ino asked with a sigh. Naruto opened his eyes. He told the others he had to do something that only involves him and it's in Konoha. They complained about having to go all the way back, but Naruto had a method for getting there quickly. He promised that he would return. With that, he vanished in a yellow flash. Konoha. Naruto was sitting in her bed thinking over what she just found out. She then feels a chill run down her back and the atmosphere became cold. She looked up and sees a boy standing on her roof staring at her. The picture of him came into her mind. She then realizes it was this Naruto. They all spoke about Naruto, couldn't figure out who this girl was. She resembled him a lot. He hits the floor after falling. He was now directly in front of her. She got to her feet, literally looking him in the eye. Who are you? Naruto asked. No one special. I'm just the daughter of 2 great ninja and the Kyuubi's host, Naruto replied. I could believe the first part, but the second is a lie. Really? How so? Because I am? The Kyuubi's eyes instantly replaced Naruto's. Really, that's the best you can do? She did the same thing and the same end result came out. Naruto would not believe what Kyuubi tells him. A grin appeared on Naruto's face, perplexing Naruto. After their eyes returned to normal, Naruto finally expressed his thoughts. Well, at long last we finally meet. After 12 years I've finally met you, sister. With her eyes wide, Naruto pondered what she had just heard. If she knew she had no siblings, how could he call her sister? She was troubled by yet another issue. She was aware that she was the host of the Kyuubi, but now another one is here? Could he be a DNA experiment of some kind? A male incarnation of herself? She came to the conclusion that it couldn't be real and that it was a dream. This will end soon. After she wakes up, everything would return to normal. Naruto said, I know you don't believe me. In closing. Oh, I didn't notice I made it so noticeable, she remarked mockingly. What must I do so my own sister will believe me? That's totally up to you. He had an idea, she cautiously said. Give me your hand. After taking it, Naruto entwined their fingers. A blush appeared on her face as she appeared shocked. What more proof do I need, seeing how our hands are perfectly locked? We're family because we are identical twins after all. And Naruto. Yes. Could you give me a second? I need to process this. Sure. She stepped back from Naruto a few paces and shut her eyes. She was thinking when someone called. The unexpected call irritated her greatly. When she opened her eyes, she saw a fox in a huge cage. All of its features remained the same. Although its fur was slightly darker than the other, she gave the fox a weary but irritated look. She already had to deal with determining the veracity of what Naruto had said, and now she had to deal with this. What do you want? Don't get an attitude with me. I am the great and powerful Nine Tails. Yeah, I know I am your Jinchuriki. That boy, he has me in him. Like what? Yo, evil glare as usual. I guess some things never change. Naruto heard the voice and glanced around. When she saw Naruto approaching her, she was startled. What brought him here? How did he get here? Forget about that. When Naruto saw Naruto, his Kyuubi snarled. He simply responded with a smirk. You're him, the holder of the other half of me. Indeed I am, Naruto replied. Naruto interrupted. Hold on, you mean to tell me I only have half of you? Afraid so. But how is it even possible? Because you two are siblings. When you two were born, your father sealed half of me in each of you. I tried to stop them, but it was too late. The blonde said, so you're saying, you killed our parents, with a hint of sadness. Yes. In the real world, Naruto had a tiny stream running down his cheeks and a tear was forming in his eye. She was already in her brother's arms before Naruto could approach her. Thanks to the two Kyuubi, Naruto's memories suddenly came to her from early childhood to the present. Everything happened. She regretted not being there to relieve half of his burden. She was aware that the action was taken. Nii-san, I want to join you. I had a feeling you was going to say that. Well, can I? Of course, it'll give us some time to catch up. And that red-haired boy, Gaara, is, hold up sis, he has a long way to go before he knows what love is. At least you can teach him. Okay then. Pack your things, we're leaving. She hurried to gather her belongings. She returned a few minutes later, her bag packed and prepared for travel. She took hold of his hand and tightened her hold. He was aware that she shared his desire. He disappeared with her without waiting another second. The team waiting for Naruto to arrive. As they sat on the ground, they discussed when Naruto ought to come back. They became disinterested in waiting for him and assumed he had been apprehended or something. After deciding to go get him, Ino got up. After reaching a consensus, they all began to return to Konoha on foot. At that moment, they noticed Naruto standing behind them. Beside him, they saw a female mirror image of him holding his hand. Naruto clarified himself just as Ino was about to ask him a question. Relax Ino, I want you all to meet my sister Naruko. Hello, it's nice to meet you all. Later, they learned a little more about the siblings, but they were all shocked to learn this. She blushed a little when she saw how Gaara was staring at her. They all resumed their journey. It was good to see each other again, the blonde siblings. Naruko won the affection of both Naruto and the other. As far as Naruto is concerned, dealing with her was both a benefit and a drawback. She had the advantages of being just as strong as Naruto, balancing the genders, and being a truly wonderful person. The only drawback was that they had to contend with two noisy Uzumaki. They made camp and remained there for the duration. The twins were the only ones awake and claiming not to be exhausted. Nii-san, we should be close to a village. Yeah, I feel other people nearby. We should probably go there to get some things. I agree, Kits. I'm sensing two very high chakra levels. They may pose a problem to us. Naruto remarked, I know who you mean. Who are they, Nii-san? You'll find out. Just keep an eye out for Mist. Mist? Yes, that's how you know where they are. Everyone was getting up as the sun rose. After gathering their belongings, they all made their way to the village. They reached an ocean via the track road. A man arrived on a boat. After a few minutes of waiting, he proposed to show them around the village. He was about to charge them when he heard Naruto and Naruko declare their desire to live here as wanderers. With a smile on Naruto's face and a faint blush on Naruko's, he dropped the fee and released them. The village appeared to be rather dilapidated inside. Everyone appeared to be unsure of where they would get their next meal. There wasn't much food in the stores. In actuality, their food supplies were minimal or non-existent. They all questioned how this village was genuinely surviving. They saw something being built in the distance. They discovered it was a bridge. After approaching it, one of the employees stopped them just as they were ready to continue. Hey you kids! Get out of here! Shouted bridge builder Tazuna. Naruto questioned, are you always this loud? Were you always this short? Naruto gave a deep growl. Why Atta? Sorry for my Nii-san's behavior. We were just looking around. I'm Naruko and this is Naruto. We were just passing through and saw that your village looks as if it could fall at any moment. Wouldn't it be better to invest in the town rather than a bridge? In a way, we are investing in the town. This bridge will allow all food supplies to reach our village, but Gato and his goons keep trying to stop us. And who is this Gato? He is the worst of the worst. He basically rules over us. Whenever someone comes to bring good, he sends his minions to do his dirty work. We all know that he's just a coward, but what happened changed our courage. What did happen? If you don't mind me asking. A hero came, he was like a father to my grandson Inari, he became part of our family until one day it changed, we all witness him being killed after trying to stop Gato. He said if any one of us tries to stop him they'll do the same. What if I make a deal with you? If we can stay with you for the time being we'll deal with Gato. Not to offend you, but you are all kids, correct you are. But these young bodies wield huge powers, so, do we have a deal? Yes you do. Wow, she's a smooth talker, everyone remarked. Looks like these brats are trying to stop Gato, let's see who kills him first. At Tezuna's residence, Tezuna's daughter and grandson are taken aback when they all enter. His daughter accepted the agreement he made with them after he explained it, but his grandson did not. According to Inari, it was worthless and not worth attempting. He practically sounded like he was crying as he ran out. They recalled what Tezuna had said and wondered what had just transpired. Naruto and Ino sat on the roof and gazed at the moon as night fell. After a brief period of silence, Naruto let out a sigh. Okay Naruto, something is bothering you, what is it? It's just that Inari kid, what about him? He thinks all hope is lost and we're right here. Ino kissed his cheek and said, just give him time, I'm going in, are you coming? No, I'll stay up a little longer. With a nod, Ino departed. Naruto pondered how they were going to fulfill their pledge. He went to bed after nearly 2 hours of contemplation while Naruto assigned Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro to guard Tezuna in case Gato showed up. Ino, Naruto, and Naruko were assisting Ino in controlling the chakra that had been given to her in the morning. More precisely at noon he made it apparent that they would switch every day. N and I and N already in their nine-tail state, Naruto and Naruko were getting ready for Ino's transformation with her eyes closed. Ino began to show the symptoms of her transformation. Her hands changed, her nails grew, her hair flared out, and whisker marks appeared on her face. She opened her eyes and saw the Kyubis. The twins ran at her as she screamed. G and T and K. They observed the construction workers while perched on the railing. It was pretty dull, to be honest. From time to time, Temari and Kankuro let out yawns. Although Tezuna was aware of this, she chose not to mention it. A few moments later, Temari and Kankuro discovered that Gaara was occasionally waking them up. How their brother could remain awake like that through everything was beyond their comprehension. All they needed was a little thrill, and that was about to happen. It was a voice that the bridge builders were familiar with. Fearfully, they all turned around with an army of men brandishing blades. Gato stood there. He was shorter than expected and dressed in a suit. How was he able to command all these men? Tezuna, I told you and all these workers to stop with this bridge. If this bridge doesn't get built, then more people will die. Do I need to remind you what will happen if you disobey my orders? He sent a few men to attack him. The men were halted in their tracks when sand fell in front of them. They were soon blown into the air by a strong gust of wind. Crow killed them by breaking each of their necks while they were in the air. The siblings declared themselves when the corpses hit the ground. When Gato saw them, he became enraged and dispatched his strongest ninja to eliminate them. They recalled what Naruto had told them. As the area was enveloped in mist, there was a figure approaching them. At least I meet my prey. I'm Zabuza and you will fall by my hand. The Sand siblings gazed down at their opponenta, or at least his silhouette. The sun was totally obscured by the thickening mist. They stood back to back as they watched his figure vanish. If he attacked, they formed a circle at every angle. A great blade swung swiftly in Gaara's direction just in time. Gaara erected a sand shield. It was almost cut in half by the blade. Temari swung her fan at Gaara silently. They watched to see if anything had changed. You're going to have to do better than that, said Zabuza. At Ino, the Uzumaki siblings charged. A wind shockwave emerged from Ino's mouth as she opened it. Naruto sidestepped as Naruko leapt into the air. A spiraling ball formed in his hand as he held his right palm down. Ino stepped aside, grabbed his arm, and kicked him away as he thrust his arm forward to attack. She saw him dispel in a cloud of smoke, and her eyes widened. Naruko emerged from the cloud holding a Rasengan to avoid the attack. Ino leapt into the air. When she looked up, she saw Naruto descending with one leg raised. She covered her head with her arms and absorbed the blow. Naruko helped hold her in place while spinning after Naruto kicked her to the ground. The two females were encircled by red chakra until they resembled a comet. Naruko disappeared at the last second, sending Ino crashing to the ground. There was a huge explosion when she struck the ground. The twins gazed into the cloud as they stood in front of it. Naruto had his hands by his sides, and Naruko had her arm on her brother's shoulder. After a few seconds of silence, Ino materialized directly beneath them. Everything seemed to Ino to be moving slowly in each of her hands. Spiraling balls of red formed. She glanced at the twins, who were at least attempting to avoid or flee. Grinning, she directed the assault at them. It struck them squarely in the stomach. It blew them away and detonated after the smoke cleared. It was visible that they were supporting one another while breathing heavily. Check and mate, laughed Ino. You're getting better, Naruto said with praise. I agree, you're almost at perfectly controlling it like Ni-san and I, Naruko said. Thanks you guys. I just have one question. You formed the Rasengan, yet it was red. What did you do? Replied Naruto. To be honest, it happened on its own. I did nothing. Whatever happened, it sure did pack a serious punch, Naruto admitted. Naruto said, it sure did. In agreement they all chuckled, but then the twins simultaneously glanced behind them. Concern and anxiety were visible on their faces when Ino questioned their abrupt change. They informed her of the conflict involving Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro. They all nodded and made their way to the bridge to assist. In order to get there faster, they ran through the streets and rooftops. All they could do was hope they arrived in time to assist. At the bridge, Kankuro and Temari stood there, both with minor wounds. Gaara made every effort to identify the ninja that was concealed in the fog. He senses a chilly presence behind him, and the ninja was clearly visible when he turned around in Gaara's perspective. He was very tall, had gray skin, short, spiky black hair, and bandages covering his mouth and nose. The big sword on his back was the only thing that caught the eye. He brought his sword to confront Gaara as he gazed down at him. He soon finds out he couldn't. He looked back to see sand holding his sword, and soon it began to climb onto his legs. He looked at Gaara and saw his palm facing him upside down. The sand then covered his whole body except for his head in a cocoon shape. It began raising Zabuza up, and as it rose, Gaara would move his hand right side up. Once his hand was in its normal position, he closed his hand tightly. The sand came together, crushing him. Zabuza and the sand fell to the ground. The sand returned to Gaara and a few kunai went past him. He opened his eyes in shock and looked to see Temari with her fan back and Kankuro with Crow in front of him. He looked back to see Zabuza there with his sword close to Gaara's neck. Gaara looked at the Zabuza on the floor, which dispersed with water, and surprisingly the one behind him also. They looked around for him, but it was no use because of the thick mist. They noticed 3 Zabuzas attacking them. When they heard the sound of air moving, they were abruptly cancelled when something smashed in front of them after the smoke cleared. Gaara saw Naruto, Kankuro saw Ino, and Temari saw Naruto's back. They all had their Kyuubi eyes glowing in the mist. They dashed off in different directions and vanished within the mist. The Sand siblings heard grunts in the mist and were astounded. Then right before their eyes, in a loud thud, landed Zabuza. His eyes were with fright as he tried to crawl away. Naruto and Ino landed on each side of him while Naruto landed in the back. They all walked towards him menacingly. The Sand siblings felt the fear, terror, and pure power of everything going on. 3 ice needles were inserted into their arms, backs, and legs while their hands were on Zabuza. They looked and saw a boy with an Anbu mask. It's about time you got here, Haku, Zabuza hissed. Sorry, but I was waiting for the right time, Haku stated calmly. Everyone stared at the new arrival. Temari and Kankuro spared a glance at the 3 who carried the Kyuubi's chakra. They stood normally as if they didn't feel the pressure of the needles driven through their skin. They closed their eyes and the needles shot out and the wounds healed immediately. Their eyes opened and it glowed within the thick mist. Haku began stepping forward toward the group. He ran through hand signs and performed his Keke Genkai. Secret Jutsu. Crystal ice mirrors. From the mist formed a dome of ice mirrors and Haku stepped into one. They were all inside and they wondered how they were going to get out. Gaara spots Haku's image in a mirror, and when he was about to alert them, all mirrors had images of him in it. 3 ice needles stuck out of the spaces between his right hand fingertips. He cocked his hand above his left shoulder and launched them. The ice needles pierced everyone except Gaara, thanks to his iron sand armor. Gaara looked at everyone and they all looked alright. Besides, Haku didn't hit any major organs. Gaara's sand swirled around his body violently. He stretched his hand and it created a spear that Gaara launched. When it came in contact with an ice mirror, it just broke apart. Temari and Kankuro had wide eyes, knowing that was one of Gaara's strongest techniques. Just then the voice of Haku ringed in their ears. It would take a lot more than that to break this ice. Shutting his eyes, Naruto came up with a plan. He created multiple shadow clones to go after each mirror. They scattered one after the other. He knew that something had to be moving so quickly that it was invisible to the human eye. But what? He looked at his sister and Gaara. Naruto nodded, and they knew what to do. Temari and Kankuro, Gaara and Ino, and Naruto and himself were the pairings that Naruto made. They hoped whatever Naruto had planned worked. Gaara covered the dome with his sand in secret. Several shadow clones were made by Naruto, and they leapt to each mirror. Ino put her hand on Gaara's head with her eyes closed. Gaara kept looking up with his sand visible to him. He saw movement in the sand before a clone dispersed. Everyone saw what Gaara saw because Ino was a Yamanaka. When the clones were all scattered, Naruto closed his eyes. Haku informed them that it was pointless. Naruto smirked and opened his eyes with using the same method. He then notices Haku moving from mirror to mirror. He gave Kankuro a nod and gestured with his head before all the clones were scattered. Crow was sent in that direction by Kankuro, and before they could see it, Crow had caught Haku. Gaara and Ino wasted no time in riding up to him in the sand. Sand formed the Shukaku's arm and covered Gaara's arm. With his right hand extended, Ino placed her hand on the Shukaku's arm and added Kyuubi's chakra. Kankuro swiftly moved his puppet out of the way and released Crow's hold on Haku. Using the additional chakra, they slashed Haku as the speed of the sand increased as he started to fall. His left side had 4 slash marks on it. The wind kept him in the air while Tamari swung her fan. She appeared above him and used the base of the fan to knock him in his back. Kankuro launched 3 kunai at him via Crow and delivered a series of punches himself. The twins were out of sight. They all wondered where they went, but got their answer seeing them sailing through the air heading towards Haku. On both sides they had a Rasengan at hand to finish him. Haku, seeing this, vanished at the last second. Everything seemed to move slowly to the twins as their Rasengans drew nearer. When the attacks collided, they mixed rather than exploded. The twins were surrounded by a blue, upside-down funnel made of an improved Rasengan. Everyone was shocked when they landed. Haku growled at the scene from behind his mask with the funnel in tow. They charged at him. Haku threw a couple of ice needles at them, but the funnel deflected them. The twins threw themselves into the air and charged at Haku. In addition to hitting its target, the attack destroyed one of the ice mirrors. Haku's mask broke as he rolled along the bridge. At that moment, every mirror broke. Haku's face was exposed as he stood trembling. Haku was confronted by Gaara, Tamari, and Kankuro. The tiny trail of blood from his mouth caught their attention. He was flung into the air by Tamari's fan. When she materialized behind him, Kankuro leapt to his feet and kicked him. Gaara followed him, carrying sand. The sand fell on him as soon as he touched the ground. Gaara lifted the sand, revealing his closed eyes. They were aware that he was only unconscious and not dead. Dealing with Zabuza was entirely up to Naruto and the others. When Zabuza realized that 3 influential people were gathered around him, his eyes widened. He pulled out his sword and looked around. There was nobody nearby when he was punched in the face. Then there was a kick to the head and a punch to the stomach before 3 people forcefully landed on his back. He was on the verge of falling to the ground. They were on him when he looked up, squatting down. Naruto looked into Zabuza's frightened face. His message was whispered in his ear. "We're not going to kill you, but I have a proposal for you. After we destroy 2 villages, we're going to start a new village. It'll be a place where people who are seen as monsters, demons, or just hates their current village can go. But if you're going to accept my offer, there is something I want to do." "What is it?" "I can see you hate Gato and want to kill him, but I want the honors." "If you wish." With a sly smile, Naruto started to approach Gato and his army. "Oh Gato, I'm coming for you." Emerging from the fog, Naruto sprinted in his direction. He motioned for his men to keep him safe. Some of his men attacked the blonde directly as they rushed to the front, knowing that they were fools. Naruto gave a small shake of his head to confront the incoming blonde. They brought their blades, spears, and swords. Naruto jumped and landed on a man's sword. He was punched in the face by Naruto, who then kicked back. He took a small step back and charged again. He drove a Kyuubi chakra-filled fist into the stomachs of 2 men. After his hands touched their stomachs, a huge hole was made through them. When he opened his hand, he proceeded with his attack, slashing each man cleanly and quickly, instantly killing them. He lunged toward Gato and his 2 surviving men at full speed. He pulled a kunai from the sleeve of his jacket and smiled sickly and twistedly. At that moment, he was caught off guard and stopped in his tracks by a blur that went by. After everything had calmed down, he turned to face Gato and saw the 2 men on the ground standing in front of him. Accompanied by a familiar face, Gato appeared to have been impaled by a sharp object. Based on his facial expression before it was cut out, the object became deeper with more force. With the person standing over him, Gato collapsed to the ground, dead with his head hung and his eyes closed. Naruto approached the individual. "I really don't like how you waited at the last moment to steal my spotlight, sis. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Seeing you have all the fun just did something to my soul." When his sister said that, Naruto's eyes twitched. Before long, everything was visible as the mist gradually subsided. Ino was clearly bored, as evidenced by the fact that Haku was still unconscious, staring at her sharpened fingernails. She sat on Zabuza's back with a small smirk. Naruto ran toward the other members of the group. Naruto trailing behind. He winked at Zabuza as he went for a stab with his kunai. When Zabuza realized, he grinned beneath his bandages. He and Haku vanished at the last moment. All the bridge builders present were thankful that they took care of Gato and his men for good. In honor of them, they decided to name the bridge the Great Hero's Bridge. Naruto and the others agreed on the name and left to let the builders get back to work. When Tazuna reached home, he told his family about everything that happened and asked where they were. His daughter didn't know since they never returned. Just then Tazuna hears Inari's voice and goes upstairs. He sees him looking out a window, not moving. When Tazuna joined him, he noticed that Inari's mouth was open, and when he asked what happened, all Inari could do was point to what he was looking at. Tazuna looked and saw Naruto and Naruto. Sparing the human eye was unable to keep up with their rapid movements. They landed on the ground before charging at each other with their bodies covered in red chakra. When they collided, a medium crater was made and a small shockwave expanded. Tazuna and Inari could see the smiles on their faces as they tried to push against each other with their fingers interlocked. This reminded them of their first encounter with each other. Tazuna was amazed by the power these two blondes carried. What Tazuna didn't know was Naruto and Naruko's message to Inari, which caused him to be so interested in them. Tazuna were shocked to see them sitting in the crater laughing. Even though they were powerful, they still were children. Naruto and Naruko came inside, just finishing their spar session. Footsteps, one lighter than the other, were heard almost racing down the steps. The twins gave a puzzled look when they found out it was Inari and Tazuna. They looked almost out of breath from running as they stared at the twins. They could clearly see that Naruto and Naruko were mirror images of each other's opposite gender because they were standing so close to one another. What went on in here? The twins asked. How old are you two? Tazuna asked. 12, they replied. How could 12-year-olds be so powerful? It doesn't make sense. It's because of what happened to them, Inari spoke. What do you mean, Inari? They told me their story of how they were separated at birth, hated by everyone, and worked hard just to get noticed. They also told me that I should work hard to become strong, to follow my dreams even if no one wants to help, and, most of all, they told me to make the best of what family I have left. I want to do that since they only have each other and they're doing much better than how I was. I lost my father figure while they lost both their parents. At the mention of their parents, the twins' heads were lowered and they were holding each other's hands a little tighter. Tazuna took note of this. Inari slowly moved to the twins and they welcomed him in a hug. A smirk was noticed by Tazuna and he smiled, knowing that his grandson had someone he could relate to. They broke the hug and looked at Tazuna. It wasn't until 4 more preteens appeared behind him that he realized what was happening. Each of them had good news to tell. The bridge will be finished in 4 days. Inari applauded as the twins grinned and closed their eyes. It appeared as though they would soon be able to depart and travel. They needed to do one thing before they could possibly find a place to build and establish a village. After 4 days, on the Great Heroes Bridge, everyone stood. After just a few seconds, people began to arrive with a variety of goods. The team left once the village had recovered its prosperity since he brought them in. Tazuna offered to take them out. After accepting his offer, they returned to dry land by boat. After waving goodbye, they all vanished into the trees. They restored their strength and hope, which is the main reason Tazuna wished they could have stayed longer. In order to avoid being noticed, the group sped through the trees. To Naruto's chagrin, Ino was, of course, making fun of him along the way. Naruko was pleased to see her brother become irritated, but she also felt a little alone. Even though she was with her brother and friends, she still felt as though she had no one to spend time with, as Naruto did with Ino. Naruto nodded to his sister, who recognized the meaning when he caught a glimpse of her. To get to the Sand siblings, she stumbled backward a little. They questioned why she would approach them. Temari and Kankuro saw Naruto calling to them with a swift hand gesture ahead of them. After exchanging glances, they accelerated to apprehend Naruto. He needed to learn more about the Sand village, Suna, but he also wanted to give Naruko and Gaara some privacy. Naruko managed to catch up with Gaara and made an effort to initiate a conversation. She knew it would be difficult because he continued to look forward. Naruko began. So Gaara, can I ask you a question? What is it? Gaara asked, his voice tinged with rage. What made you join Nii-san in his quest to destroy Konoha? Aren't you from different villages? We are from different villages, but we're very similar. The same pain I went through he did also, plus he agreed to help me take care of Suna, my former village. Since they don't have the resources like Konoha, it should be easy. Oh, I thought it was because you two were Jinchuriki, so you were helping him out. Gaara turned to face her for the first time. What made you think that? He was staring at her when Naruko turned to face him. It indicated that she was near. It's just that I thought Jinchuriki help other Jinchuriki. You are also a Jinchuriki, correct? Yes, I am Nii-san and I share the 9 tails. He has half and I have half. Gaara's eyes slightly widened before turning to face Naruto. Naruto only has half of the 9 tails power? And he's that powerful? Yeah, I know. I could only imagine what he could do if he had both halves. But Gaara, that mark on the side of your forehead, how did it get there? It happened when I was young. I got upset to the point I transformed into the Shukaku. When I finally calmed down, the sand impaled me and the mark was there ever since. Naruko observed the mark's transformation from hate to sadness. She stepped closer to him and took his hand, saying, it changes with his emotions. Us Jinchurikis sometimes have to deal with situations we wish never happened. I've had my share of them and I know Nii-san had more than me. We just have to deal with it. Gaara grinned back at her reassuring smile. At least she got to know him better. Even though she knew she still had more work to do, it was only a question of time until she approached hopefully. It will then result in their meeting. Surprisingly, the mark shifted from sadness to love. She had no idea what kind of love the mark meant, so this took her by surprise. Naruko struggled with the question of whether it was her love for Gaara or her love for her brother. Hey Gaara, how much longer will it be until we reach the desert? Naruto answered the phone. According to Gaara, At this speed and rate, roughly 10 minutes. Naruto questioned, "Ni-san, we're going to Gaara's former village now?" "Yes, we're already close and, besides, this will be our ultimate test to see how far we came with our strength," Naruto said. "You do realize that all of our names went down as Rouge Ninja and we all know news travel fast. How are we going to get in without getting noticed?" Ino pondered. "Oh my Ino, don't you worry that pretty head of yours, I have a crazy idea that just might work," said Naruto. "Well, do you mind letting the rest of us know instead of leaving us in the wind?" Temari asked. "In time everyone," said Naruto. After that, they all accelerated and prepared to face the intense heat. In fact, as the number of trees gradually decreased, they could already sense it. After deciding that it would be best to travel at night when it is cooler, they all took a break. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro occupied one tree, while Naruto, Naruko, and Ino occupied the other. They waited for darkness to fall. When Naruko looked at her brother, she noticed that he had a serious expression on his face and his eyes were closed. She couldn't help but worry about him even though she knew he was considering how to handle this circumstance. She approached him slowly before reaching out to touch his shoulder. Then she senses a hand inside of her own. She recognized it as Naruto's. When she looked down, Naruto grinned, opened his eyes, and made his request known. "Naruko, can you form a Rasengan for me?" A Rasengan appeared in her hand as she nodded and opened her right palm. Naruko trailed behind Naruto as he leapt from the tree branch in order to bring his Rasengan closer to his sister's. Naruto created his own almost immediately. Both Rasengans became so large that they needed to use two hands to hold them. After inhaling deeply, Naruto gradually combined the two enormous Rasengans. The twins were holding super jutsu in both hands when a blue upside-down funnel formed around them. "Ni-san, what just happened? I wondered what would happen if two people that have the same chakra nature do the same jutsu and combine it. Since we're both wind-natured, when we did the Rasengan and combined them, the outcome is this. How about we call it Ultra Rasengan? Wouldn't Super Rasengan sound better? Let's judge it by how powerful it is." They both made several shadow clones and applied the jutsu to them. They were all scattered in a few seconds. Naruto agreed that Super Rasengan would be superior. After glancing at his sister, the sun was lowering when they looked up at the sky. Now it was time to get moving. And quickly they all started their journey across the desert. After the twins joined them, going through at night was a great idea. But they overlooked one important detail. There was still the question of what they would do if they didn't get there before sunrise. In an effort to at least get near the village, the 6 preteens in the pack raced across the desert. Aware that they might get lost, the Sand siblings led the way back to their old village. All of them hoped that this journey would be much shorter than they had anticipated. Their bodies will soon suffer as a result of running across the desert plain in this manner. They would be fighting a whole village. 2. They will need to prepare for the heat of the desert if they want to carry on in this manner. In the morning, to cool off, the twins tied their jackets around their waists. Since the Sand siblings were accustomed to the heat, they were unaffected because her skirt almost reached her knees and her ninja top had no sleeves. Ino was catching the most air every now and then. Naruto or Naruko would gripe about how the heat was annoying everyone else. They had no idea that the twins were trying to irritate them. Naruto inquired, "How much farther is the Sand village?" The siblings said, "Not that much farther," in response. "Thank you," cried Naruko. "Would you say we only have a quarter more to travel?" Ino asked. "Not even close," said Temari. When Kankuro said, "We're already here." They turned to see Suna, the Sand village. Naruto was reminded of Konoha by seeing Suna, and this will be a great exercise for when they return to Konoha. Now that they have the element of surprise, he understands that it will be different. Suna will inform Konoha of the situation so they can get ready, but if something isn't thrilling or presents a small challenge, what's the point? Everyone dispersed after Naruto went over the plan with them. Everyone in Suna was going about their, as normal as it gets, lives, while Jenin proudly wore their headband and Chunin and Jonin took care of the village. The children ran around it for the most part. The day was quiet and serene. Sadly, we don't always get what we want, do we? They wished that every day could be like this. Above the village, something was taking shape, and they knew it was enormous. In the air, Naruto and Naruko formed their Super Rasengan once more. A blue, inverted funnel formed around 2 enormous Rasengans. As they meshed, they pointed the attack in front of them. As they descended headfirst, everyone made an effort to move aside, but it was too late because the attack and the sand collided, causing a small explosion as all of the ninja launched a counterattack. The twins were standing back to back when the sand died down. The twins had virtually no way out after all of the ninja leapt at them. While some ran through hand signs, others held kunai with explosive tags. Jutsu and kunai of all sizes and shapes were on their way directly to the twins. Sand was kicked up by a massive explosion caused by everything colliding. At one point the crater was deserted when it subsided until the earth itself began to rumble. Every ninja cheered and smiled. Naruto began, "If you actually thought," Naruko said, "that pathetic attack would hurt us. Both said, "You're so very wrong." The twins stood back to back with their eyes closed as a big red aura burst from the sand. The twins' silted pupils and red, piercing eyes caused all ninja to widen their eyes at that moment. They recognized themselves as the babies who shared the Kyuubi in Konoha before the sand ninja and the twins collided. The twins ran at the ninja. As they all turned to look, they noticed an old woman navigating the crowd. "Tell me, young ones, why you two are attacking Suna?" she demanded. "It isn't just us though," they said coolly in response. "What do you mean by that?" At that moment, Tamari, Kankuro, Gaara, and Ino showed up on either side of the twins. Gaara's entire face went from emotionless to enraged the moment he recognized her. His demonic chakra was rising as if it would never stop, and the twins and Ino could feel it. Some gathered on the right side of his face, and the sand started to swirl around him before things got out of control. Naruto struck Gaara's seal with an open palm while holding a fist filled with Kyuubi chakra. Naruto watched him change back and said, "Gaara, what's going on?" "That woman. She's responsible for making my life a living hell. By following my father's orders she sealed this demon in me, Shio of the Sand. That's all I need to know." Both Naruto and Naruko ran towards her and attempted to cut her. Surprisingly, Shio dodged the blows, kicked them away, and punched them in the stomach. Their expressions were bewildered as they gazed at her. Ino disappeared, then reappeared above her, ready to kick after catching her leg. Shio threw her into the air with pure chakra. She shot Ino down after appearing above her. Ino struggled to get up after colliding with the sand a few yards from Ino. Shio materialized. She took a slow step toward Ino and pulled out a kunai when Naruto was hit. She stopped right in front of Ino and attempted to stab her. He closed his eyes and grunted when Ino turned to look. She saw her boyfriend carrying a kunai behind him. She became so furious at this that she completely unlocked the Kyuubi's chakra and power. She raised herself up and stood in front of Chio, her right fist in Chio's stomach, emitting red chakra. "I wouldn't just let you injure Naruto like that without a punishment." "Ino, Naruto, are you okay? You should know that it would take much more than that to kill me though. You've awakened the hidden power of Kyuubi's chakra." "It feels great, Naruto, Naruko, Ino, you need to hear this," Tamari called. They vanished and regrouped with the Sand siblings. Tamari and Kankuro quickly told them a little bit of Chio's background and the new plan. They agreed and began putting it into action. Kankuro stepped out with Crow and launched Crow at Chio. A person in a white cloak blocked Crow, and before they realized what was happening, Crow was blown back. They then realized the person in the white cloak with big white hair was a puppet. "My dear Kankuro, have you forgotten I was the one who started the Puppet Foundation?" "No, I haven't, and besides, look behind you." Just when she looked, she was blown into the air. Tamari, with her fan, appeared above her and blew her back down to the ground. Along the way down, the twins and Ino attacked her at blinding fast speeds. Gaara manipulated the sand in his gourd and it latched onto her foot. It soon climbed up her body and it formed what looked like a coffin. Gaara had his hand upside down with his palm facing the sand coffin in the sky. "This is for putting this demon in me, sand burial." With Gaara returning his hand right side up and closing his hand, the sand squeezed her until it exploded. Everyone watched as her body fell lifelessly to the ground. It wasn't long before she got up looking a little skinnier than usual. Gaara realized it was her puppet in the place of her this whole time. He looked around for her, but it was useless. The group of preteens' surroundings got darker and darker. Ino knew what was happening and knew just how to deal with it. If she thinks putting all of this in a genjutsu will be enough, she has another thing coming her way. As a Yamanaka, Ino closed her eyes and followed her into her thoughts. She was able to see all of her memories once she was inside, including the moment she sealed the Shukaku inside Gaara. The genjutsu was cancelled, and Ino informed them of her location. Gaara worked with the sand to cover his teammates' bodies. All of them gradually vanished into the sand underneath them. Chio observed and pondered their destination. She was dragged into the sand by 3 hands that grasped her ankles. It was quiet after she entered with her opponents. Then, as if fleeing, she burst out of the sand and fled, glancing at her with Kyuubi eyes. Naruto and Ino landed on all fours in front of her. She turned to see Tamari and Kankuro standing proudly, their faces expressionless and solemn. She turned left to see Gaara and Naruko making their way toward her. As she glanced around, she noticed that everyone else was menacingly approaching her. She threw her puppet at Naruto and Ino. As she was surrounded, the puppet was totally destroyed with a powerful shout from the two of them as they ran toward her. Naruto and Ino cut her sides as a diversion. Kankuro had Crow launch a kunai, which caused her to leap into the air. Tamari used her fan to strike her in the back. Gaara and Naruko flew in her direction while riding on the sand. "Naruko, could you do something for me?" "Sure, what is it?" "Fill your hand with Kyuubi's chakra and put your hand on mine." She followed his instructions and put her hand on the back of his. Blushing slightly as she knew their hands would come into contact, Kyuubi's nails and Tsukaku's hand were formed by the sand that gathered around their two hands. They cut Chio cleanly in half as the speed of the sand they were riding on increased. The sand crumbled and returned to his gourd as its speed dropped as they started to descend. Gaara held her bridal style while Naruto was getting ready to fall back to the ground. "Gee Gaara, what are doing? Naruto, I want to tell you something." "What is it?" "Before I met Naruto I felt alone after knowing how similar we were. We became like brothers. When I met you I felt something for you that I didn't have for Naruto." "What do you mean?" "I have a sibling feeling for Naruto, but I have something for you that I can't explain." "Is your heart beating fast?" "Yes." "Do you feel nervous?" "Yes." "Does it feel like you have butterflies in your stomach?" "Yes." "Well Gaara, I guess you came down with a bad case of Naruto fever." "What is that?" "I'm trying to say you love me, and quite frankly, I love you too." They landed on the sand with everyone looking at them oddly, except Naruto. He was aware that they were either already together or were getting closer to doing so. He glanced at Ino, and the memory of their time together returned. He grinned before realizing what they needed to do. He approached the new couple and said what was on his mind. "I really hate to destroy your moment, but we still have a village to destroy." "Don't worry Nii-san, we know, and I just had a great idea." "Well say it Nii-san." "We destroy Suna in pairs. I'll have Ino. I'll have Gaara, and Temari with Kankuro." Ino, Temari, and Kankuro all agreed. When Naruto approached her after that, they disappeared and each had a third of Suna to themselves using a Rasengan. Naruto and Ino smashed into their section. Ino ran out of the middle of the sand and destroyed 4 houses with a single swipe of her hands because he didn't want Konoha to hear about their invasion. Naruto first targeted the more senior ninja. Some attempted to confront him, but they were killed in the process. Gaara and Naruto erupted from the sand and immediately got to work. Gaara eliminated houses and those who viewed him as a tool and a monster. By using his sand he eliminated them without any delay. Naruto, on the other hand, toyed with them a bit before putting them out of their misery. She was stabbed in the back by a ninja who crept up behind her. The Naruto scattered before Gaara became overly angry. The ninja lay there lifeless a moment later, his blood smearing the sand. Temari swung her fan, creating a powerful wind gust. It took care of the buildings in addition to throwing people into the air while Crow dealt with the others. Kankuro leapt up to the airborne ninja and launched his own attack. Blood spilled from the ninja's dead body as they fell and hit the ground. Some ninja were attacking them with powerful jutsu and they had little room to move. Walls of sand protected them as well as deal with the ninja. A sand cloud developed beneath the 6 preteens as the sand rose above Suna. This is similar to the sand in his sand armor. Gaara told them this is iron sand. To put it another way, Suna was showered with spikes that emerged from the sand. Now for the final touch. If any ninjas or people were still alive, they would be dead. They saw a sand tsunami headed straight for Suna and heard a rumbling in the distance. The fallen Suna was completely covered by the tsunami. Withdrawing a kunai, Naruto and Naruto launched themselves into the distance, their eyes widening. Everyone saw a figure fall from the sky and wondered what they had shot at. Soon, they all recognized it as a messenger bird that had been sent to Konoha in case someone happened to come and see the message. They destroyed it after riding the sand to the bird. After finishing everything, they left and made the decision to search for a location to establish their village. In addition to training, they were eager to see what the future held, and things were looking up for them. The preteens were sprawled on various branches of a tree. It was a little more difficult to remove Suna because some of the siblings failed to warn the others about an elderly woman who could be a real danger overall. They were successful in defeating her. Everyone exhaled in relief from the intense heat of the desert sun as a cool breeze blew by. The majority of them were sleeping with their eyes closed at the top of the tree. Naruto and Gaara were debating their next course of action. Naruto said, "Why don't we train after everyone has rested off?" "That will be the best course of action," Gaara answered. "I had this in mind since Konoha doesn't know of our attack on Suna or that they're next. Let's train for 4 years. That way we'll have time to train, look for a place for our village, and most of the powerful Jonin will be unfit for battle." "I applaud you Naruto. Let's get to everyone else. But before that, are you okay with me dating your sister? I mean, you just met her in a short period of time." "Gaara, she's my family. I'll have all the time in the world to know, and nag her. I'm okay with it." Naruto leapt to the ground and landed silently on a branch, where Ino rested her legs on the branch and her back on the tree's stem. Sneaking up on her, Naruto rested his head beneath her chin as his body rested on Ino's. She was startled but welcomed him. Sighing, she encircled him in her arms. "You do know I'm supposed to be laying on you, right? You'll get your turn, Ino." From the top of the tree, Gaara observed the 2 blondes. He heard the sound of leaves rustling. Naruto appeared as he turned to look to his right. The sight of her calmed him. She approached him with a somewhat dejected expression on her face. With her dejected expression, She caressed the left side of his face. Naruto was right when he said that Gaara still has a long way to go in terms of love. I hope she will be the one to instruct him at last. Gaara, why are you here by yourself? I wasn't until Naruto left. Why didn't you come down with him? I was thinking about something. Like what? Watching Naruto and Ino, I was wondering if we can be that happy together. Naruto grinned slightly. Gaara, I really have a lot of work to do, don't I? You're the one who liked me before you got to know me. How do you even know that? Think hard. After giving it some thought, Naruto asked as he appeared in front of his sister. You called? You told him? Yes, I did, and besides, it was long after he started developing feelings for you. You're lucky I'm in a good mood. See ya, Gaara, do what I told you to do and maybe you'll understand. Naruto then went back to his girl, leaving them alone. Her brother's final words left Naruto unsure of their meaning. She turned to face Gaara, who was already approaching her. Was he anxious? To a great extent. How could he know what to do when he had never done this before? He didn't recognize the term Naruto used. He simply stared at Naruto, who continued to display the bewildered expression. In fact, he had trouble raising his hand. When it touched Naruto's cheek, a flush spread across both of their faces. Primarily Naruto's. Everything began to make sense when he began to bring her head closer to his own. She secretly grinned. Knowing what Naruto had instructed him to do, she decided that he had already done so much and met him halfway, bringing their lips together. The sensation of Naruto's lips against Gaara's caused his eyes to enlarge. He kissed her back and slowly closed his eyes. There was no room between their bodies as they encircled one another in their arms. She even began to deepen their kiss because she liked the way it felt. To her dismay, he did the same to Gaara. They ended the kiss after a few seconds. Naruto grinned as she nestled her head in Gaara's chest. Gaara gained some insight into the true nature of love. The twins were a blessing in his life. www. They glanced to the left and saw that everyone was seated, and observing them they were extremely embarrassed and developed significant blushes. They tried to mimic the sounds of their kiss, but it didn't help. They ran at them. Annoyed, Temari and Kankuro moved to the right, while Naruto and Ino moved to the left. While Naruto pursued Naruto and Ino, Gaara pursued his siblings. Ni-san, I hate you. I love you too, sis. And Ino, you just followed along with him? And everyone else, replied Ino. I forgave you too for many things, but not this, Gaara said. Temari teased, come on Gaara, you looked like you enjoyed it. Kankuro followed and said, why don't you go back to her for another? That's it. I'm going to kill you. They chased them around for nearly an hour before giving up. The sun was about 30 minutes away from beginning to set. When they all looked up at the sky, they made the decision to go find a place to camp and sleep. They discovered a sizable clearing by leaping from tree to tree. The guys went into the bush to find food and firewood, while the girls set up camp because they were experts at these things. They returned an hour later. The girls said, so what did you guys find? You tell me, said Naruto. At that moment, he arrived with enough wood to last them the entire night. Gaara and Kankuro arrived carrying a variety of fish, meat, and fruits. They entered their separate tents after cooking the fish and meat over the fire. Naruto hears someone entering his tent late at night, but he doesn't appear to be awake. The figure approached him more and more until it literally leapt on top of him. It didn't take Naruto long to notice its softness and shape. The person landed next to him. After he rolled over and threw them off him, he turned to them and spoke softly. You're not all that sly when it comes to me, Ino. I just wanted to sleep with you tonight, if that's okay with you. Of course it is. In an instant, the night passed when Temari awoke. The sun had just begun to rise. She yawned and stretched as she exited her tent. When she went to wake Ino, she discovered that she was not in her tent. She tried to wake everyone up by running from tent to tent, now completely awake from the shock. Naturally, Gaara was the first to leave because he was unable to sleep. Kankuro and Naruto emerged next with a look of drowsiness on his face. Naruto protruded his head. He questioned, what's the racket about? Temari answered, I'm sorry to wake you up, Naruto, but Ino is missing. What are you talking about? Ni-san, Ino, your girlfriend, isn't in her tent, so someone must have taken her, Naruto clarified. What I meant was she isn't in her tent because she snuck into mine. He unzipped the front zipper and placed his head back inside. Then they noticed her lying there with Naruto's jacket covering the upper portion of her body. Her sleeping figure caused everyone to relax, but it was only for a brief moment. Only until Ino awoke did they maintain their silence. Naruto went back into her tent, leaving the Sand siblings alone. They wondered what time they'll wake up, but more importantly how they will expose Naruto. Couple minutes later, Ino and the twins emerged from their tents. They all sat down where they had eaten the night before. The one thing the girls had in common caught the attention of the group's male members. They had their hair out because it was still early in the morning. Temari's hair stopped at the base of her neck, but Ino and Naruto's hair nearly reached the floor. With her eyes closed and still experiencing the aftermath of waking up, Ino rested her head on Naruto's shoulder. Hey Ino, Naruto said. She opened one eye slowly. Yeah, Naruto? You looked a little too comfortable sleeping with Nii-san last night. What were you two doing in there? Ino's eyes shot open and a small blush formed on her cheeks, and nothing happened in there. Ino, you're blushing, stuttering, and you haven't left Nii-san's embrace yet. Well, at least we were both on the ground, unlike last time, Naruto spoke up. Last time, Naruto and everyone else were interested in what happened last time. Last time, when we were still in Konoha and I confessed my love for her, she fell asleep on top of me. Naruto teasingly said, Ino, I had no idea you moved so quickly. Her blush deepened as she glanced at the floor. Naruto stepped up to defend his girlfriend, saying, Sis, you can't say nothing because you wanted to do the same with Gaara when you saw her sleeping in my tent. Her face was blushing, and everyone was staring at her. She eventually acknowledged that she did wish to follow suit with a triumphant smile. Naruto threw an arm around Ino at that point. It was obvious that they needed to ensure Naruto had no counterattack in order to expose him. They all agreed with Naruto's plan of action at that moment. The girls entered their tents to style their hair and emerged looking even more stunning. They dismantled the tents and sealed them before starting their search in the forest, hoping to find a spot quickly. They leapt from tree to tree. Gaara had a brilliant idea at that moment, and the others questioned why they hadn't considered it earlier. Gaara leapt into the air, releasing his gorged sand as he touched down on the sand. He peered down at the ground from above. He surveyed his surroundings before collapsing once more. As he touched down, Gaara said, Here we are looking for a spot to build a village when we could do it here. Why here? They all asked. There are not any other villages near here, it's just acres upon acres of forest. Well then I say we start some landscaping. Who's with me? Replied Naruto. He grinned and accepted their applause, and they all went to work to average out the size. Gaara took to the skies once more to mark the location of the walls. Sand was dumped down. He made an entrance gate after the sand solidified. When the twins stopped her, Tamari grabbed her fan and prepared to swing it for a short time. She felt a little let down since they were also wind-natured. They told her they knew how to increase her wind. A powerful gust of wind from the three wind users uprooted several trees. Ino used the Kyuubi chakra that had been bestowed upon her to spin ferociously, effortlessly destroying trees. Kankuro tied chakra stings to the remaining trees and threw them away. Gaara descended again, and they found themselves in a spacious clearing. Naruto and Naruto vanished and returned later with the necessary items after they had used the uprooted trees for lumber. Ino asked, Where did you two get all this stuff? To which they replied, Just some friends. Unbeknownst to the twins, Ino stole a piece of paper she saw as they passed. She saw that it was from Tazuna and that it had writing on it. He sent them everything that was left over after building the bridge. Knowing that they haven't forgotten about them made Ino smile. The twins pouted when she hurried over to tell the others about the letter. Then they discovered that they wanted it to be unexpected. Ino apologized and gave them a pat on the back. The day came and went. They completed drawing up the village's layout, and perhaps they can start training tomorrow. They do have 3 years. After all, not everyone was in their own tents at dusk. After a while, Ino crept out of her tent to discover Naruto following suit. Their cheeks blushed slightly, but they were aware of each other's motivations. Naruto inquired, You're going to Nii-san? Yeah, I am. You're going to Gaara? Yeah. Just make sure all you do is sleep tonight. Funny thing is I can say the same to you. They snuck to their boyfriend's tent while giggling in order to avoid waking the others. They carefully unzipped the front. When they were done, they were dragged into the tents, and the zipper swiftly closed before they could enter. Now they knew the guys expected this to occur. Naruto fell asleep almost instantly after resting her head on Gaara's chest. Gaara simply closed his eyes and smelled Naruto. Conversely, Ino was lying on Naruto. When they first met in person, they stopped their occasional little giggles. Ino rested her head on his shoulder as they shared a kiss. I love you, Naruto, not as much as I love you, Ino. Knowing that they would need every last bit of energy tomorrow, they grinned and went to sleep. Look at them. Shut youper, you'll wake them up. The two of you be quiet. Look, they're waking up. As Naruto and Ino awoke, they heard soft laughter and giggles. It was much brighter inside Naruto's tent than they had remembered. With a moan at the light, Ino rolled off Naruto. The couple of blondes shielded their eyes from the light. That was the least of their issues, but they later discovered it was open. Tamari, Kankuro, Naruto, and Gaara all gazed at the two of them. Ino, why did you get off of Nii-san? You seem to be very comfortable, said Naruto. I guess all that talk about the last time made her want to do it again, Tamari said. Their faces flushed, but it was for a different reason. However, Tamari's statement was accurate, which made Ino feel ashamed. They left the couple alone after their invasion of privacy was over. After they left, they exchanged glances and smiled slyly. Both of them had the same thought: they will just enjoy each other's embrace for the time being, but they couldn't wait to be outside and reveal them. They were in the clearing. After nearly an hour. The Sand siblings occupied one side, while Naruto, and Ino occupied the other. With Naruto and Ino, they were able to figure out who would face whom. Gaara was the opponent of Naruto, Kankuro was the opponent of Ino, and Temari was the opponent of Naruto. Naruto nodded to Ino and Naruto, who then sprinted at their respective adversaries. Everyone was left to fight their own battles due to the amount of force used. He sent his sand to close in on Naruto while he was still healing from pushing Gaara. When he saw this, he screamed loudly, canceling it out, and closed his eyes. Gaara saw Naruto with the Kyuubi's eyes as she glanced at him. Thought, I can't go easy on him, Naruto. He's already taking things seriously. Looks like I better step my game up, Gaara reflected. Dodging sand that was coming at him from all sides, Naruto charged at Gaara with Gaara beneath him. He bounded into the air. He positioned himself, created a shadow clone, and started to form a Rasengan, gathering his sand around himself. Gaara leapt to meet Naruto. When Naruto confronted Gaara with his jutsu, he was sufficiently lifted by his sand to avoid the blow. The sand gathered and started to form something when he raised his right palm. Naruto observed as Gaara launched it after it formed a spear in order to get out of the way. Naruto quickly cancelled his jutsu and made a shadow clone. When Naruto touched the clone's hand and shoulder, it changed into a massive shuriken. Gaara easily stopped it with his sand after he launched it at him, grinning. They both hit the ground nearly full speed. They ran at one another. They pressed against each other's strength with their fingers interlocked. Seems like we're on equal terms, Naruto. I don't think so. I could barely get any sleep last night. Why is that? Because of Kyuubi. Thanks to my dad seal half of him in Naruto and everything that was happening to her was related back to me. Gaara's eyes widened in surprise. And I know you don't want what you've been doing with my sister. Get out, right? Damn you, Naruto. He kicked Gaara up and tripped him, taking him by surprise. Then he struck him again, sending him sprawling to the ground after transforming into a Rasengan. Naruto fell to the ground. Gaara was on his knees and Naruto was standing. When the smoke cleared, Naruto lowered himself to his level and posed a question that would permanently alter his life. Gaara, do you want me to fix that seal of yours? You could do that. I can make it strong enough so you can finally sleep. Okay, do it. Naruto started working after Gaara unveiled his seal as he ran through hand signs. Kyuubi's chakra flared in his hands. Gaara had to fight hard to stop him from yelling like a madman as he put his hand on the seal. When I fixed the seal, it burned uncontrollably. It was fixed after a few more seconds, and he was relieved, mostly because he could finally sleep, especially with Naruto, his beloved. Kankuro and Ino were fighting as hard as they could. Ino changed and ran on all fours toward Kankuro. She leapt and braced herself for a blow. Kunai flew out of Crow's chest cavity as he shifted Crow in front of him. She grabbed the first kunai and flicked it at him while dodging and deflecting the majority of them. He leapt away. As soon as he saw the approaching projectile, she disappeared in midair, reappeared above him, and knocked him down. He safely landed on the ground after flipping backwards. When Ino touched down, she immediately ran at him again, using Crow as a distraction. He snuck behind her as he ran at her. Crow grabbed her tightly, his back to her. She felt as though her bones might shatter at any time as Kankuro tightened his hold on her. Crow released the pressure by spreading his arms wide. Crow's arms suddenly closed around Ino just as she was about to grab him. Nearly dead, Ino's body dropped to the ground. Kankuro felt he went a little too far. At that moment, bubble noises were heard, and Kankuro noticed that she was changing again. She went on all fours and glared at him while something that appeared to be a cloak formed on her. Any injuries that may have existed have now been repaired. She kicked him after coming up behind him. He saw Ino approaching him after he skidded across the plane. To his surprise, she landed on his side and called the cloak back instead of attacking. Kankuro, you can't hide it. What's that supposed to mean? You know exactly what I mean. When you first saw me you instantly liked me. Then you found out about Naruto and me, but those feelings still remained. A slight flush spread across his cheeks. I have no idea what you're talking about. You can't deny it. You like me, she began, placing her head and arms on his chest and gazing into his eyes with a charming smile. The flush grew sufficiently intense to be noticeable. I. Yes, she replied in an attempt to further manipulate his thoughts. Kankuro-kun? I do like you, but I can't do this to Naruto. With a triumphant smile, she left him. When Naruto got with me he knew that other guys would fight him to get me. I guess because of his reputation no one dared to challenge him, she thought to herself. He's my hero, my everything. Kankuro should have realized that she would eventually persuade him with her beauty and kind words. To make matters worse, he recalled that Temari had always tricked him by doing the same thing and he would always fall for it. He assumed that he would let Naruto and Gaara handle the females. He would kill them all if it were up to him. When Naruto ran toward Temari, She was nearly knocked down by a strong gust of wind. Temari was barely visible as she shielded her eyes from the wind. Temari was nowhere to be seen when it subsided. Naruto was kicked in the back, causing her to fall to the ground on her hands. She was blasted back down after being kicked in the stomach. Naruto's eyes opened to reveal the Kyubis before she could touch the ground. She whirled violently, encircling herself in a funnel of wind. It expanded as she spread her arms out. Temari made a valiant attempt to escape, but it moved too quickly. In a matter of seconds, it blasted her away. Temari was not as fortunate to land safely on the ground as Naruto was. Her fan landed next to her as she crashed into the ground, leaving a tiny dent. Fearing that she was merely waiting for her to approach, Naruto approached her warily. When Naruto realized Temari was missing, his eyes grew wide when she swiftly turned around. A fist was in her face to get her bearings. She flipped backwards a few times. She gave Temari a fierce look as she grasped her fan. Then she understood what she needed to do. With a sly smile, she charged at Temari. Temari launched a counterattack, giving this swing her all. Naruto ran through hand signals and inhaled deeply as the gust approached. A powerful gust of wind that she blew split Temari's attack in two. She rushed at her with a forming Rasengan. After creating a pathway, she finished the jutsu and disappeared into thin air overhead. Naruto emerged, descending with the jutsu. Temari defended herself with her fan. Naruto was about to resume when the early exchange between Naruto and Gaara suddenly came back to her. She came to a halt and her face flushed. Naruto, what's wrong? Temari, please just let it go. I just want to help. I know what I just received can't be shared publicly. Naruto said, why not sis? I already know, as he approached them. That's only because of our connection through our tailed beast. I asked you if he has anything on us and you said no, Temari admitted. I have something on you too, Temari, Naruto declared. Like what? In a whisper, he said, you can't deny you like me the first time you saw me, but it's wavering since you found out I'm with Ino. Her face began to flush. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. You're not playing fair to say you don't like me, Temari-chan. His statement made her shudder. All right, I admit it. He took a step back and turned to face Naruto. Now as for you, it appears that things are getting a little too frisky between you and Gaara. Ni-san, shut up. I knew you were going to teach Gaara what love is, but this was unexpected. Ni-san, I said shut up. She threw herself at Naruto, tackling him in the process as though he knew she couldn't stop what was about to happen. He willfully allowed her to pin him down when they heard the disturbance. Ino and Kankuro ran. Ino responded with a slight nod when Naruto gave her a quick wink after arriving. Ino hurriedly delivered the remainder of Naruto's message. Naruto was all over Gaara, kissing him with moans and giggles escaping their lips. The tent was lively that night. Below her, Naruto glared at her brother. He just gave her a look, grinned, and walked away. She turned to see him standing behind Ino, his arms wrapped around her slender waist. Ino embraced him and nestled into him with pleasure when he passed in front of her. Naruto saw Gaara and jumped at him. She was carried into Gaara's arms by her momentum, and he gave her a quick embrace. She relaxed a little and gave him a hug in return. At this point, the plane was peaceful. Skip 4 years. I wonder how long it's been since I last been in Konoha, Naruto said. Ino went on, I'm wondering the same thing, Naruto inserted. Well, I just dipped in and dipped out. That's actually a good thing since you don't have anyone special to you in there, Gaara stated. For once, I agree with Gaara, Temari declared. Me also, Naruto is at the best advantage, concurred Kankuro. The group of 16-year-olds was traveling from their newly constructed village to Konoha with their faces over the gate. It was roughly half the size of Konoha in the event of an enemy attack. The structures were designed to sustain significant damage. Large training grounds with unrestricted movement were located on the sides. The founders lived, worked, and slept in a building far taller than the others in the center of the village. They also changed how they looked. Naruto was dressed in a white long trench coat and a black sleeveless shirt. Instead of his typical orange outfit, he had a kunai holder on his right thigh and black pants. He walked with a sheathed sword strapped to his back while wearing dark blue ninja shoes. Naruto paired her black ninja shoes with black pants and a long-sleeved shirt with black and orange patterns. Her clothing fit her figure well and hugged it. Although Ino was still rocking purple, it was now manageable. She wore a white skirt that hung down to her knees, a white shirt that ended at her belly button, and heel shoes that covered the majority of her calves. She accessorized her ensemble with a purple jacket with a white shoe on his right shoulder that connected to his left side. Gaara wore a black short-sleeve shirt. He wore black shoes that exposed only his toes, dark red pants, and a gourd on his back. Temari noticed a black versus neck dress with a yellow piece tied around the waist that covered the majority of her thighs, although most of her feet were hidden by her shoes. Some side shots were visible. Crow's cloth was white, and Kankuro's shirt and pants were white, but he still wore his distinctive black hat. His face's purple marking changed. 2 thin lines ran from them to his eyes, and a line ran across his forehead. His mouth was reached by a line on either side of his cheeks. They were prepared for the impending conflict, but the question was, is Konoha ready? They raced through the trees so quickly that they were invisible to the unaided eye. They should arrive there at the latest the following day. If they continue at this pace, both Naruto and Ino were curious about how people would react to them. They stopped when they heard a rustling sound. There was silence until they noticed Naruto defending himself by brandishing his sword. Never thought I'll see your face again. I can say the same thing, Sasuke. Sheathing his sword, Sasuke gazed at Naruto. Looks like the idiot got a new look, to inform you that he is dressed similarly in Shippuden. Looks like Hothead went to someone for training. What happened? You finally realized you were too weak. I did go to someone for training, but not for that reason. After I got this curse mark get put on me, I went to a colleague. He helped me to master it. His name is Orochimaru. Naruto observes Sasuke's expression and says, Orochimaru, huh? He can be a great asset. Don't worry, it's a good thing. After observing Ino's appearance, Sasuke says, I'll see about that. Hello Ino. Hey Sasuke, long time. No see, long time. No see is right. How about you and I? Never going to happen. Why not? I'm with Naruto, remember? Still. Yes, still. They continued until Naruto intervened. At that point, they learned that Sasuke intended to exact revenge on Konoha. They all came up with the proverb, an enemy of my enemy is my ally. They informed him that they were heading there right now to totally destroy Konoha, and Sasuke, intrigued, joined them. They shook hands one by one, but when Naruto turned around, he kissed her hand and felt two powers rise as though they had no boundaries. Calmly, Naruto said, you should not have done that now, Ni-san and Gaara might kill you. Wait, you're dating Gaara and Naruto are siblings? Yes. Sasuke felt a burning sensation as the sand automatically wrapped around him. He looked at Naruto and Gaara, who had actually succeeded in fusing their demon's chakra. The sand closed in tighter and tighter until everyone decided he had endured enough, at which point they released the hold, and Sasuke gasped for air. Gaara knelt down to his level and whispered his message in his emotionless and icy voice. If I ever catch you kissing my girl again, I'm going to kill you. Sasuke wondered how they could change their mood so quickly. One moment they were greeting him, and after something so innocuous that he nearly died, he got up and turned to face the group, who all stared at him as if preparing him for what was to come. He approached Naruto and nodded, and after getting a nod in return, they ran through the trees, initially surprising Sasuke with how quickly they were moving, but it didn't take him long to catch up. The two things that really stood out to Naruto were that he was trained to the point where he could hardly move and that he was almost consumed by the curse mark. Naruto told Sasuke about everything they had done since they left until now, and Sasuke told him his end in exchange for Naruto telling him about his activities. Naruto was shocked by everything that had happened. Setting that aside, Naruto concentrated on reaching their target by tomorrow at noon, knowing that it would be the best yet most terrifying thing they had yet to do. When they arrived, they realized it would be their last chance to use all of their years of training, and before they left their newly constructed village, they recalled the promise they had made. If we die together. Light thuds were heard in a forest moving at a high speed as the sun was setting, and the group was searching for a place to stop before continuing on. The situation appeared hopeless at this point because the ground was covered in trees, making it impossible to camp there. There was only enough space to walk through. They all considered different approaches to this situation, and it was clear that they couldn't go down, up, or through. Why don't we clear our own small area, Ni-san? Naruto proposed. Clever as ever, I see, Naruto remarked. It was time to rest for the next day, but there was still one personal issue. Everyone else didn't need the invitation to begin destruction. In fact, they were already set when Naruto finished her suggestion. They took care of the destruction while Gaara smoothed out the plain. Everyone except Sasuke took out a scroll and poured chakra into the seal, and in a puff of smoke, tents appeared ready and set up. They also built a small campfire for light and heat provision. Sasuke, don't worry, Temari promised. You can use Ino's, she won't be staying in there anyhow. Why wouldn't she? Sasuke inquired. Trust me, you find out tomorrow. The blonde couple remained silent while holding each other, and Ino kissed Naruto's cheek. Before you know who took it. Before long, everyone else entered, and Naruto and Sasuke sat across from each other by the dying fire, in silence, each second seeming to drag on forever. It was evident that their pasts still haunted them, and Ino emerged from her tent and walked over to Naruto's when she saw them. What's happening to you two? She sat down next to Naruto and asked. According to Naruto, Ino, I know you feel it too, the awkwardness between us. Sasuke said, it's almost palpable. I do feel uncomfortable now that you two bring it up. I suppose it stems from the fact that we were once teammates. Guess so, said Sasuke and Naruto in an attempt to break the awkwardness. Ino remarked, that aside, I thought you were going to stay in Konoha until we come back, Sasuke. After I received that visit from Orochimaru, that will never occur again. I can still clearly recall. Those years ago when Sasuke opened his eyes, he saw a figure at the foot of his bed, which startled him. Sasuke's Sharingan came to life, but before he could attack the figure, he spoke. He lay inside a hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. It was nighttime, and the only light was from a lamp that was dim. Everything was quiet, easy, and calm, but it bothered him too much. Sasuke Uchiha, at last we finally meet. How do you know who I am, and who are you? I'm Orochimaru, and I've been observing you for a while. I have to admit that I'm interested in you. I want nothing to do with you. I am able to strengthen you. That blonde annoyance of yours will finally go away. I'll give you my influence. If I defeat Naruto, I'll do it with my own strength. Before he knew it, a snake had bitten him in the shoulder, causing him to double over in agony. While he held it, growls and agonized screams could be heard as the curse mark appeared on the back of his shoulder, and when it was finished, Sasuke laughed sinisterly. Orochimaru asked him how it felt, and in response, he got him to look at his palms, opening and closing them with a smile, before telling him to seek him if he wanted to gain more power. Those years ago, that's what I call a rude awakening, Naruto remarked. But if not for that, I would still be in Konoha surrounded by weaklings, and then when you six come, I would be as good as dead. Speaking of that location, Naruto and I ought to visit it. Sasuke, you should too. Before he could say anything more, Naruto and Ino vanished into a single tent, which greatly disturbed Sasuke. He thought about what they might do later that night, but he brushed it off. He entered Ino's tent, and even though he was a little upset about having to sleep in a girl's tent, he liked it. Her tent smelled of her, which he liked. Sasuke was jealous of Naruto because he had the real thing and had to deal with the fallout. I'm sure by now Sasuke is taking deep breaths taking in my scent, Ino laughed. Naruto inserted, but it isn't as wonderful as the real thing. She kissed him and lay on his side for the moment, saying, you're going to make me blush. I can't believe tomorrow might actually be the day. Me neither. Konoha lived long enough. She put her arm across his stomach and rested her head on his shoulder, saying, I couldn't agree more. I want to tell you something before you go to sleep. I informed everyone, with the exception of 2, and they consented. What are you thinking of? He forgot that when they were planning something like this, she gets overly excited and waits for tomorrow morning. Naruto closed his eyes and felt another body on his, and without looking, he wrapped her in his arms and smelled her. She finally couldn't believe what he was telling her, and she had to cover her mouth to avoid laughing at the end. He had to cover her mouth. I was correct. Nothing compares to the authentic Ino, the smell of my Ino. Although he didn't want to, he took in the presence around him, which made him feel at ease. He was literally lost in his imagination when he felt a body shifting, but he didn't pay much attention. He heard a gentle and sweet mourning and opened his eyes a little, seeing only long, luscious blonde hair. A short while later, he found his arm around the person, and their skin felt soft to the touch. When they backed into Sasuke, he smirked because he wanted to see who this person was. He raised his head and saw that it was a woman. He moved to the face and stared at it. She appeared to be sleeping peacefully, but when he lowered his head again, something caught his attention, and he became extremely alarmed when he saw that she had 3 distinct whisker marks on her exposed cheek directly in front of him. He also noticed that her eye twitched, but then opened slightly. She blushed slightly as she turned to face him, her blue eyes gazing sweetly at Sasuke, whose cheeks turned red at the sight of this beauty. She looked down and saw that his arm was a little too near the base of her breasts. At that moment, she fully woke up and took in the situation, slapping him hard in the face while glaring at him. She felt almost violated, to be honest, as if Sasuke had done something. You're a pervert. I ought to murder you. The girl was blasted. Sasuke retorted, I'm just as confused as you, Naruto. Naruto didn't believe it for a moment. You seem to enjoy the situation based on the way you were staring at me. You need to believe me. That's correct. Go die in a hole. After leaving the tent, she noticed that everyone was staring at her. She turned to face them, but they seemed to be waiting for her to arrive, and they also seemed to be keeping something from her. She gave her predicament a lot of thought, and she realized that they hadn't done it because she had gone to sleep with Gaara, woke up to Sasuke, and everyone was waiting for her. She also noticed that Gaara wasn't freaking out, or, at the very least, wasn't asking questions. So, sis, how was your wake-up call? Naruto inquired. No, I didn't, but Sasuke is in a similar situation. Did any of you do this? That we did, was the response from all. Come on, you're still doing this. When we were younger you must mature. Naruto grinned and said, thanks, Kyuubi. You can't say nothing, sis, because you were already considering how to get us back. While they were laughing, Naruto growled and disappeared into her tent. Sasuke emerged, massaging his cheek, and they quickly noticed the red handprint on his cheek. Remembering the time they heard her slap him and knowing it must have hurt, Sasuke sat with the others and noted how different they all looked, particularly Ino and Tamari, whose hair had grown a bit and now stopped at the top of her back. Ino cut her hair so that it stopped in the middle of her back, and she let Naruto rest his head on her shoulder so she could play with his hair. He was a little irritated by this, but he let it happen by closing his eyes. Sasuke seemed to be staring at Ino the entire time while everyone was talking, which was the first time she had ever seen her like that. She noticed the staring and gestured to Naruto below her, bringing her hand to her neck and bringing it across. After half an hour, the group was racing through the trees at full speed. The sun was blazing, but fortunately they were too fast to notice it. Before long, they recognized a common forest, and the cool breeze and all the shadows cast by the tree canopies indicated that they were getting close. They paused briefly to review the plan one last time before moving on. In Konoha, the Hokage was occupied with her paperwork during the years that Naruto and Ino had been absent. The third Hokage passed away, and a new Hokage, a female named Tsunade, the granddaughter of the first Hokage, took his place with the help of her dependable and devoted friend Shizune. She was constantly traveling from the mansion to the hospital as the Hokage and a renowned medic. "Lady Tsunade, we're having trouble. I'm running in," Shizune said. "Is that Shizune? Rouge Ninja have just crossed the border into the Leaf. They're directly on their way to Konoha. We'll stop them before they reach the Leaf."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.